Good evening and welcome to the March 28th, 2012 meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. First item on the agenda is other business. And we have, where's our guest speaker? Are you our guest speaker? Are you Kevin? Okay, we have your first, Mr. McCune. We have Mr. Kevin McCune from NSTAR. He's offered to give a presentation that he gave to the Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commissions, but I did ask Jen to remind Kevin that he had 20 minutes, not an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And she said you like to talk.
Yeah, that's probably right.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Kevin.
I won't even go through the agenda, I'll just go right into it. Just to give an overview, this is a typical way we deliver electricity. You have to generate, it's in 4 sections. You have generation, which is up in the right, and then it goes from the generation plant, it goes on what we call the transmission part of the system. That's the big lattice towers to the 2 poles, which we call H-frames. Those go into a substation. You see those are usually fenced-in areas at different parts. From the substation, it goes on to what you see in the streets, which is the distribution system. That's what brings the electricity to your house. And on that, there's a whole variety of other equipment there. But mainly the topic here is the transmission system, which is between the generation and the substation.
Actually, it's important to me. So can I interrupt?
Yeah.
You have that looks like 2 different kinds of very high towers. The ones on the left there, made out of scaffolded steel and whatnot, but there's those 2 things on the right. That's all part of also what you call transmission system?
Right.
And why do they look different from the others?
It's just a different configuration. We have the first ones coming out of the generation plant, we call those lattice towers.
Okay.
Because it's a steel lattice, and they're always steel. The other ones we call H-frames. Those can either be wooden or steel. The reason we would go to those, it's a lower profile. We also have other types of structures called monopoles, and it's basically just one steel pole, and it would have different configurations. Either all poles would hang off one side of it, or they would go the top one off one side, the middle phase off the other, and then back again. We call it a delta configuration. There's various types. These are just 2 of the basic types, which you call a lattice and an H-frame.
So the H-frame is for lower
It's
elevation.
usually a lower profile.
Okay,
right?
thank you.
I won't spend much time on this. This is just the different utilities that are around. You have the big ones, National Grid, then NSTAR, Unitel, Western Mass Electric, and then there's also towns served by municipalities in there. This is kind of a rundown of the history of the regulatory oversight of the transmission system. The picture in the background here is New York City and the blackout that was in 2003, the whole city. A lot of people around here don't really remember it. It came from Canada all through New England. ISO New England, which regulates the transmission system in New England, they caught it right as it was getting into Massachusetts. So a lot of people here, we weren't even really affected by this. But that was a few days. But you can see from 62 and 65, there was another great blackout. 30 million people were out. In every one of these situations, another government regulation comes up. Whether it's NERC and NEPOOL, and then ISO was formed. So there's a lot of regulation out there that we have to comply with, in addition to environmental regulations such as this commission oversees. The picture I put here just shows the amount of electricity that we use here. I look around my house, especially lately the kids have every iPod and iPhone and laptops, and last summer, I think even Stop and Shop was selling air conditioners for like $100. Every house, every window in the neighborhood had an air conditioner. The energy use is just getting huge. As much as energy efficiency is really helping the situation, the energy use is really, we use a lot of electricity. But basically, when we do work on our transmission system, it's really because of one of these three reasons. It's either a reliability issue, where we have to meet some type of a demand there, whether it's because of a contingency that we have to prepare for, storm preparation that we have to prepare for, or just regular maintenance to maintain the system, to provide the reliability so that the power will keep going there. There's a capacity reason. Like I said, the needs are always increasing, and we have to keep ahead of those needs. And we have to project out a good 5, 10 years of what those needs are going to be, what the growth in the communities are. We can't just look a year ahead and then design a transmission system. It takes years and years to do. So we look at the base load and then peak demands on certain times of the year, and then future load forecasts. The third reason is fairly recent, and it's to support any alternative energy sources that come in, whether it's demand response, DG, energy efficiency, or any of these wind turbines that you see growing up, or PV arrays. So these are the three main reasons that you'll see us out working on our transmission system. Like I said, the transmission system goes from generation, back in 99, 2000, your well-known utility got rid of divested of the generation, so I won't talk about that. So the substation is where the transmission goes into right before it goes out to the voltage for your house in the distribution side. So basically you have a high voltage coming in, it goes through a bunch of equipment, transformers, switchgear, some protection devices, and it goes out the other end at a lower voltage. That's basically what we do here. The activities in here, we replace the gates and fences, we do some repaving, we replace some of the foundations, replace some of the equipment in here. A lot of this stuff, if it's bordering a wetland, we'll come in and we'll ask for a maintenance exemption on this type of work, because it's usually within a fenced, gravelled area. We will usually hay bale at the fence line itself and tie it right into the fence line. Not much activity happens outside of that fence line. The types of work that you see in the transmission line are poles and structure replacement, where we replace the whole structure, replace the wires that are going in there, replace the hardware. By hardware, I mean the nuts and bolts, or those insulators, those belts that you see. Replace the static wire. The static wire is the two topmost wires here. They don't carry electricity, but they are for protection of the system from lightning strike. Counterpoise is the next one, and that's a wire that runs under the ground along the whole linear with the transmission system. That connects with the counterpoise, and it's a grounding system to protect the system. Right-of-way road access, we have to maintain these roads, so when these guys have to get down there, they have to get down there. So we have to maintain a means for them to have access to these work sites. Gates and barriers, you see a lot of gates and barriers going up. That's to protect our system from people coming in with ATVs or dumping. It's just to keep the people that aren't supposed to be there out. And then structure painting. You'll see that, you don't see that much down the Cape because there's a lot of wooden structures. But where those steel structures, we have to maintain, just like your house or anything, we have to maintain the structure of the steel by painting it. This is a common activity. This is a pole replacement. You'll see the typical line trucks. You'll see material handling bucket trucks. And basically what they'll do is they'll just dig a hole, put a new pole about, we like to keep it within 10 feet. We really like to keep it 5 to 6 feet from the existing pole. We place the new pole in, then transfer all over the wires, and then take out the old pole. This is a smaller pole replacement job, pretty straightforward. There's the type of equipment you'll see and the type of disruption you would see. This is a larger one. This is a transmission system where you see the wooden H-frames. This is a wetland system. You notice the swamp matting that we use. Everything happens on the swamp mat. That big steel corrugated culvert that you see laying next to that worker, that in a wetland area we would put that into the ground and then place the pole in there, and fill with a crushed stone. It just gives more stability to it. The wetland soils just don't hold these very well. Once this is removed, we'll come in and we'll just assess it. If it needs a wetland mix, we'll put some in. But usually when we remove this, within the next year, it rebounds. You'd never even know we were there. But while the work is going on, it looks fairly substantial. But as you notice, all the work happens on top of the swamp mat. This is a type of pole replacement. This is getting a lot more common these days, and it's because when we do work, sometimes we approach the commission and we will talk about the dates that we have to do this job within. We apply for outages to do work on the transmission system. Sometimes they're granted, sometimes they're not, and there is definitely a start and stop date to when the outage is granted to us. We don't control that. That's ISO New England that controls that. To get away from that, to work within that, a lot of these jobs have turned to live line work. These guys right here are working on this line, and that's live 345,000 volts going through that. You can see they took the two outside phases, and right now they're on those insulated buckets and being held up in the air, and the guys go up and work. So all three of those wires have 345,000 volts going through it. You can see that for safety reasons and the amount of work in the spacing, this is a fairly large footprint type of a job. This is the type of job we do when we come in and we say we're going to reconductor something or run new wires or use or replace the static. Or static, a lot of times now we call it OPGW, that stands for optical ground wire. What the optical ground wire is instead of just a traditional steel cable for the top that is there for lightning protection, what we do is we run fiber optic through it now. And the reason is now we can add communication data between our substations to add a lot more automation to it. So if something happens on the system, one substation can talk to another, and protection devices can operate and load shift, and it's a lot less downtime. People sometimes may not even notice that there's trouble. So instead of using traditional phone lines, we'll run fiber through our static wire. So we'll come and we'll ask for reconductoring of an OPGW. So what they do is they'll just go up. If it's in a wetland area, sometimes we make them climb these, and they're not too happy with us. But instead of bringing the trucks in, if they can get to it by climbing, and we make them bring up those big pulleys, and basically all we do is like snake and wire through your house. They'll put all these pulleys up, and then they will take, up in the top left-hand corner, they have a truck, a setup like this, with cables, with reels full of wire. On the other end, down the end of the right-of-way, they have the same type of setup, except it's empty reel. And they just pull it from the full reel through these pulleys into the empty reel. You'll see up there a helicopter. Sometimes if it's difficult or for some reason or certain condition, there is a possibility we could fly these in and lay it with a helicopter. That's, we don't do it very often, but it is an option that's available. This is a counterpoise. This is, I was telling you about the wire that goes under the ground. This is usually a 3/8 inch steel cable that runs the length of the transmission system. And it's used for grounding in case of lightning strikes to the static down the pole to this grounding system. Although we say it goes from station to station linearly through the whole transmission system, that's not always true. There are roads in the way, there are rivers in the way, there are wetlands in the way. So in those cases, I put a small hand sketch on the bottom here. What we would do is we would bring the counterpoise down and then make a large loop and tie it back into itself and drive grounding rods down. Once we get to the other side of the obstacle, whether it's a road or a wetland or a stream or a pond, we would make another loop on the other side, drive ground rods, and continue that down.
How deep is that? How deep
That's
is the
about
wire?
12 to 16 inches deep. It just goes in with the
Okay.
ditch witch. That's the
So not
machine
too
that
deep.
puts it in. You can't really tell that we've been there even after it goes through. Takes the wire from the front, brings it around, It just blades it in, and then it covers it back up. There are certain, if it gets really cobbly, we may have to go in there with a small Kubota or an excavator and dig it in. In those cases, the ground is usually all rock anyway. But in a smooth surface like this, a lot of times in the Cape, these things fly right in. The difference of this, if the structure itself is located within a wetland, which sometimes these wetland systems are so large we cannot span the whole thing, and there has to be a structure in it. What they'll do is they won't bring this in the wetland, but they will, at that structure itself, is they will bring from the structure out some counterpoise out radially from the structure and drive grounding rods into it. A lot of times, especially if it's in a wetland, we like to do that by hand and not bring this machinery in. We get a lot of comment and calls from the amount of whenever we come in and do road repairs on our right-of-ways, and they say it's over what we need to do. I put this up here just to show you that the truck on the left is a pretty big truck. That's what you typically see in the road, and you have to drive by with the detail. And as you drive by, it's a pretty substantial looking truck. The one on the right is a transmission truck. So you can see it's driving down these right-of-ways in a truck like that, you need a good, safe workspace. So that's why we have to maintain these right-of-way. The right-of-way itself is almost probably even more important than the poles and wires that carry the electricity. Properly maintaining that so these vehicles can get down there and maintain it and service it. A lot of times these vehicles are going down and it's under an emergency situation when there's snow or a hurricane, so it's not like they're driving down there in a nice 70-degree June day. They're driving down there in adverse weather situations as well, so they do need a safe work environment. The right-of-way itself, these are some examples of the type of work we do. Gates and barriers up on the right-hand side. You've probably seen a lot of these go out. See a lot of the old ones where we used to just put a pole across there. These are a lot more aesthetically pleasing, and they seem to work a lot better. Down in the bottom left is a typical road that you would see along our right-of-way, and on the bottom right is some foundation work. If we come to the commission and say we need to do some foundation work, this is basically this would be a steel lattice tower. We would have to come in and maintain that foundation there. This is some of the BMPs we use, the best management practice. We have a large 3-ring binder that's full of these. And the way we set it up is it's designed so that when we design a job and we plan it out, we can take these pages right out of this book and actually give them to the work crews so they're not carrying around this big book. You give them a big book, they're just not going to read it. You give them a piece of paper with some drawings on it, a lot more likelihood that they'll read it. And we can send these out. So that's the typical, our most common is silt fence and hay bale. One of the big parts of our pre-planning for a job, especially on the transmission system, we started in 2009 going out, and what we noticed is using the GIS, Mass GIS system, it's very nice in trying to find out where wetlands are, but it's not really exact, as you probably have used it and then you go out and delineate it. In 2009 we went out and we sent crews out there and we started delineating all of our right-of-ways. Right now we're about 95% finished with delineating all our right-of-ways. So all these are, it's not GIS, just Mass GIS we use anywhere, they're actually field delineated right-of-ways that we use. In addition, we put in access to each structure, so when we have to go out there, we can bring these plans up and people can see exactly how we're going to enter in for every structure we have out there, where we're going to need swamp mats, where we're going to have environmental issues. So this is a really good planning tool that we just recently, within the last 3 years, started developing. This is a job that's going on. It's actually kind of finishing up now. This is a typical swamp mat that we would use. And the bottom right is how they would lay it. This is actually, I use this picture because it's actually going over a stream right here. We had to bridge it and then continue on with the swamp mats. So this is what you would typically see. What they're doing is they have to maintain that H-frame right down the end there. This is swamp mat removal. This is a little less heftier swamp mat. We use this when we're using lower weighted vehicles. But you can see it is noticeable when the swamp mats come out, but very shortly thereafter, all the vegetation does come back. Here's our typical hay bales, straw wattle, and mulch. This happens to be a job where we used all three. It seems like the straw wattles we're using more and more as time goes on. I don't think I can even remember a job where we used a hay bale and silt fence anymore, but the straw wattles seem to work out really well. The vegetation management, this is where I get most of the phone calls and complaints. Vegetation management, we maintain that vegetation on our right-of-ways for basically three reasons. One is what we call the VMP. This is our vegetation management program. It's a planned prescription for all of our right-of-ways, and it's an annual plan where we go out and we develop this, and we have a schedule to go out there, and it's actually a planned event. Another reason we do vegetation management is for emergent issues. That's during an inspection, somebody sees a tree that's either got recently damaged or that got by a prior inspection that is in a dangerous or precarious position, or for some other reason that vegetation has to be addressed immediately. It's not really planned, it's just something that somebody observed during an inspection, and it has to be addressed. That's another reason we would go out there. The other reason we do vegetation management is to support a project. A lot of these right-of-ways we like to maintain in an early successional shrub community, and they're great. It stays out of our way, it doesn't affect us at all. But if we do have to get in there to work at the structure, say, we do have to go in there and maintain around that structure for about a 30 square foot work pad, just so people aren't working in vegetation that's up to their shoulders or around their head. They need a safe working environment. So those are the three reasons that we would do vegetation management on a right-of-way. During our planned vegetation management, this is the basic guide we use. We have a wire zone, which consists of the area directly under the outside phases. By that I mean the three areas coming down, the sticks coming down, those are the insulators. On each of those hangs a phase. So the wire zone would be that area directly under those, plus an additional 10 to 15 feet outside of that, we call the wire zone. In that area, generally speaking, we don't want any woody vegetation. It really has to be kept no higher than 3 feet. With that said, that's just a general rule of thumb. We do hire, the people that run our program have degrees and are certified arborists. They use a lot of their own judgment out here. If there's blueberry bushes out there, or, they will leave a lower shrub community there if they feel that it's not going to, if it's fine to leave there. But generally speaking, that's a meadow type environment. The border zone is, we will allow larger vegetation there, but typically not over 12 to 15 feet. And that's, when I say not allowed 12 to 15 feet, that's usually not the actual height of the vegetation there. That's what the arborist has determined will be the mature height of that species that they see there. So the species in that have, we keep to that will grow to a mature height no greater than 12 to 15 feet. The rest is some of the types of vegetation that we target, alder, aspen, beech. And we do target other types of species out there that, even though they won't grow into our wire zone, cause hazard because either it's poison ivy or just it's a vine that could grow up, or that it's just an invasive species that while we're out there, we like to take care of it. This is a typical IVM program. It consists of mechanical, chemical, which is a herbicide program, and ultimately by the use of mechanical and chemical, the ultimate goal is to create an environment and habitat that will just take care of itself. Any of the taller growing species will eventually get smothered out by the thickness in the growth of the early successional understory vegetation. With that said, there will always be mechanical, chemical from seed blow-in or whatever. So it's just a continuing circulation of these. But the more the IVM program goes in to effect, the longer it is in practice, the less mechanical and chemical that will have to be used. With that, for the mechanical, as far as permitting goes, the mechanical we consider a maintenance program, and with that, every year I will send out a letter to the conservation commissions, letting them know that we will be doing mechanical cutting in their community. I will send them a map of the areas that we're going to be doing that cutting. So even though it's maintenance and there may not be a requirement for a permit, we do send out, all the conservation commissions do get notification of that every year. For the herbicide program, that's run by the DAR. It's exempt from the Wetland Act as well as the town bylaws. That doesn't mean the towns don't have any say in it. During the 5-year VMP approval process as well as the annual YOP, the towns do get notification and have a period of comment for that. Right now, the YOP is under review by the towns. You probably didn't get it because we never, for this year, we haven't yet put in a YOP for Barnstable County. So that's why no towns down the Cape have gotten notification of that. These are our plans. We have our VMP for herbicide program. That's with the DAR. That's a 5-year plan. We supplement that with a yearly YOP that gives the more specifics of where we're actually going to be this year. The document on the right is this year's plan. That's the list of towns we're going to be applying herbicides to during 2012. The one on the bottom right is we also have a VMP with natural heritage. The VMP with natural heritage is not just for herbicides like the DAR. The VMP for natural heritage includes both mechanical and herbicide. And we meet with them every year, and that's a yearly renewed plan. Excuse me. I get a lot of calls that when we send out the notification, I get a call that, hey, you guys were in our wetland. And I said, yes, in the notification we mentioned we will cut trees in the wetland. If there are trees in there that are causing a hazard to our system, we'll go in water, we'll go in a wetland, we'll go anywhere to cut these trees down because they have to come down. This is a wetland that just started. The reason I put this in is to show you that when we do go into this area, there's no machinery that's brought in. This is all hand walked in. You can see there's no tracks from any heavy machinery. Somebody will go in, hand cut this. They leave this material here, and then it could be a day later. I've seen it up to 2 weeks later. Somebody will come around, because these people have a chainsaw. They're not going to be having a chainsaw and lugging this stuff out. Another crew follows them down the right-of-way and will take care of the larger woody vegetation. And they'll typically either bring it out or bring it to an upland area on the side of the right-of-way and windrow it. If it's larger logs, we take it out and chip it. In this particular case, the Conservation Commission gave me a call and they asked if we could keep this wood there. So in this particular case, this wood was kept there. I'm not sure why, but that was their request, so we obliged that. This is an area I believe is in Falmouth just this year. This is, I'm not sure what water pond or lake this is, but the stand of trees under the wires is a hazard and considered a danger tree to our system. You can see it's under what we call the wire zone, which I described before, and that's what it looked like after they came through. A typical program would be they would come through, they would mechanically cut this, and you can see here they walk down there, There is some low bushes that were left. We'd like to keep as much vegetation as we can that is compatible with the wire zone. What we would like to do is next year come in and herbicide this. And what we would do is we would herbicide it, and the herbicide program would go, we can go down to 10 feet from the water body. The purpose of the herbiciding is not to go down there with a big sprayer and broadcast this whole area. What they would do is they would go to those target species in there, and as they sucker out and begin to regrow, they would backpack it and just target that one species. So they're not broadcasting, walking along that shore. When I say 10 feet, they're not walking along 10 feet spraying everywhere. They would go down, if there's a stump down there, they would walk down to the 10 feet, hit that stump, and then walk around. Then eventually what this would start to grow into a scrub community where we wouldn't have to keep coming back and clear cutting this much. It would be a nice low growth community here. This is our herbicide application. I put down in the bottom right, these are two of the plants that Heritage is on us all the time to protect. They're a really big backer of our, I don't want to say they're a big backer of our herbicide program, but they're a big backer of the IVM program, the integrated vegetation, which is a combination of all of our tools in the toolbox. Mm-hmm. On the bottom left is how the target application. It's a low volume foliar sprayer that they operate. Up on the top right is the team of them going through. We would go through here and they know what plants they're going to target prior to walking through this. So it's a very direct, targeted program that they operate under. Here's some pictures. These are older pictures going back a few years. Our IVM program has not been going on for that long as other utilities. Some of these IVM programs have been going on for 15, 20 years in other states. This is a picture of a right-of-way pre-IVM. This is the result of us continually coming down mowing, and it grows back. By the time we get back to it, it's up high. We come in, we clear cut it again, let it grow. We come in, we clear cut it, and eventually it just gets this monoculture of these large trees. This is after mechanical. This is usually when my phone rings off the hook. This is very visually impact, but this is what that same right-of-way I just showed you is right after the mechanical cutting. This is 2 years later. This is either 2 or 3 years later, I forget exactly. But you can see how we came in. You can see the sticks where the target herbicide program has come in. You can see what has happened is we went through mechanically cut. We allowed the year or two for some of the sucker growth to come up. We came through, we targeted some of these individual species in here and let the meadow environment that we want to grow there allowed to grow. So this is a perfect example of the cycle of an IVM program. And these are all down the Cape, by the way, these sets of pictures. Here's another one where it's a pretty good meadow type system under there, but there are some target species in this outcropping here that we had to address. We came through, mechanically cut the right-of-way, and this is 2 years later. Again, you can see some of the targeted species lying within there that had been targeted with a herbicide application the previous year, but the growth that we want is allowed to grow back in. So these last few sets of pictures, I believe they were all on the Cape. When we do come before the commission for a project and plan especially a transmission project, I went over a slide before with some of the regulation that regulates our electric side of the business. This is a rundown of usually the types of regulatory review I have to go through when we are planning a project from an environmental standpoint. It's quite a bit of oversight from environmental agencies that we have to address. Some of them are worked in concert with each other, and some of these agencies have different interests, and they're in conflict with each other when we get conditions on how we do a project. But we seem to work through that, and but this is a typical list of the types of environmental permitting we have to go through for our transmission project. And that was it. I kind of ran through it quickly, but that's basically our transmission maintenance program.
Okay, thanks. What I'm going to suggest, Kevin, is maybe if we could have one or two questions, and then if
Sure.
people have questions, they could send them to Jen, and she'll forward them to you.
Great.
But I think it's very helpful for the town to understand the, sort of what goes into this.
No, we think it's important too. You know, we want to do the right thing, but on the other side, there's work we have to do out there.
Yeah, and we
So we want
appreciate you
everybody to
coming
understand
in.
what we do.
Okay, one or two questions? Yes.
Hi, I'm Michael Risch, and I have a
Mi-
statement here.
Michael, would you like to come up? Well, actually, come and grab the microphone.
All right. Thank you. Whoop. Yeah, I'm Michael Risch, and I'm here on behalf of Jude Wilbur directly, who is unable to be here as he's running for selectman and is attending a town meeting function tonight. And he has given me a list of questions to propose to
Well-
Mr. McEwen.
If you have a list of questions, could you give them to him in writing, and I'm sure he'll respond.
Oh.
We have a long meeting tonight.
Okay, if that's the case, yeah, if I could be given publicly that contact information.
Yeah, you can send them to Kevin McCune, MCCUNE, 1 N-Star Way,
Mhm.
Westwood, Mass. 02090.
02090.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to say that I feel Mr. McEwen was granted quite a considerable amount of time compared to the time that the residents of Falmouth have been given. I would like to put in a word for our website, which is nscar.info. That's nscar.info. There are a number of pictures there showing, I think, a discrepancy between what we've been shown here and what was actually done. There are a lot of people in town who are extremely upset, who have incurred a loss of property values. I hope you'll consider this all very seriously. Thank you.
Thank you. And also, if you have a PDF of that, you could send it to Jen, and Jen will forward it to Kevin.
All right.
If you don't want to, and that would be, what's the Concom email?
CONCOM.
Yeah, Concom, CONCOM @falmouthmass.us.
Okay, or I could give her this. It's in very rough form since it was typed up very
Yep,
hastily.
yep, that's good.
Send it to her? All right. Yeah, we'll do that.
Yes.
My name is,
Thank you.
my name is Elizabeth Wilbur, and I live at 34 Highland Circle. And we bought our house 3 years ago along the power lines, and it has an easement, and I do have a couple of questions. I did look into it. It was the happiest day of my life, one of them, when I bought that house. And I am married to a scientist, so we did look into the easement a lot. We did a lot of homework on it, and it still stands that what's happening now hasn't happened around here along the power lines. So a house that I was really thrilled to buy 3 years ago, I wouldn't buy it today. I wouldn't consider it. And I do question the lens that was used, because we have pictures and there's nothing green in it. There was a lot, this sort of seemed like an advertisement. There was a lot of green in these pictures, and when you drive up to anywhere near my house, approaching Sam Turner, approaching the Highland Circle, Pondview area where I live, there's nothing green near a power line. And I understand that it's the end of winter, but And one of those pictures near the pond was taken right near our house. And if you step back a little bit, it is much more dramatic than was shown. It's really disturbing what happened near a pond. And so despite the lens, I'm not sure those pictures being taken, they might have all happened here, but they all haven't happened here very recently. If you had real recent pictures of Hatchville, there would be no green in the picture. It would just be it would be nothing. And I think one of my biggest question is the liability. We own an easement, and again, we did look into that and we understand all of that. But we live next to a very busy road, Sam Turner Road, and there are children that play on either side of us, so we've given both sets of children permission to go through our property rather than walk down Sam Turner, which is really dangerous. And now I'm not sure if I'm responsible anymore because there are really dangerous things all along the easement, and everything was cut down. There wasn't anything that was left, like was mentioned. So my question is, who's responsible for that? There's really dangerous stumps, they're pointy, there's wires sticking out there. And I'm not saying someone could fall and hurt themselves. I'm saying a child could fall and kill themselves. And I'm not overestimating.
Okay, I'll let Kevin answer that,
That's
but
my question.
that isn't
That's it.
directly pertinent to what the Conservation Commission's jurisdiction is.
Okay.
But
So that's
Kevin,
just
if you want to
question for
address
another
that,
time?
and then
Yeah, that's more of a legal issue. I really don't know.
he would probably have to
I'm
confer with
more-
his
I'm the
legal
environmental
department.
person,
Okay.
because I don't know about liability issues.
Okay.
That's a valid question, but I think Kevin would have to get a name of somebody probably in the legal department.
And I would encourage you to go look at the ponds where this cutting has taken place. It doesn't all look as lovely as that picture. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, one more, and then any other questions through Jen to Kevin, or Kevin's gave his address?
Hi, my name is Mike Duggan. I live at 16 Highland Circle. I just have one question regarding what Kevin spoke about, because I'm a little confused. I've lived at my house now for 10 years, and within the third year of living in the house, NSTAR came by and did a clearing. But I don't understand what happened from year 3 to year 7 this past winter, that you did the type of project that you just did. That is, I think, was just upsetting to most people that have been affected. I lost 3 trees that were closer to my house compared to your safety zone that you described, and and basically, the people that you sent out to do your job were very callous. They told my wife, we could take the 2 trees that are right next to your slider. That's what is upsetting. I just don't understand what happened from year 3, from the job you did, to year 7, this past winter, that completely gutted every piece of property, land, whatever was in their way. It was like a tornado went through, and I guess that's my question. What happened?
You have to go up to talk to the microphone.
all right.
I mean, talk into the microphone. Talk to us, but through the microphone.
I don't know the last time they were there, but I know, is one of my slides, there is regulation that we have to go by, and there's different interpretations. There's new regulations almost yearly. So maybe between that time, some regulations had changed where we have to plan for a contingency that required us to go further out than we had before. I'm not really sure of the reason why it was different than a few years ago. But that possibly a reason. I know the blackout in '05, that just happened in '05. There was congressional hearings over it, and back in '08 or '09, some more recent regulations have come out because of that. '09 wasn't that long ago for us to then adapt in '10 and then implement in 2011. So, recent NERC standards have changed over the last 5 years, and we have to adapt to those.
Okay, we have to move on. We
If
have
I could say just one other thing.
You can, but
we have-
before you do, I just want to make a comment, and I think, Mr. McEwen, I think one of the issues this time and I'm just going to make this as a general comment in town, is that I know a lot of people were surprised that the level of cutting was much more than had happened in prior years. And just a suggestion that NSTAR make a little bit more of an effort to let people know what to expect. I know some people who live by the lines did talk to the workers who were there and knew what was going to come, but I think for a lot of people it was a surprise. Michael?
Yes, if I could just say a couple of sentences. We've gone through a lot of trouble to compile a number of photographs of the damage that was done up in Hatchville, and they are posted on nscar.info. And I think it would behoove everyone who's within listening range, wherever that is, to see those photographs and perhaps to compare them to what we saw here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think, Kevin, thank you again for coming in, and Ed, do you want one more
Yes, if I may,
question?
can I make just a very brief comment or two?
Okay,
Mr. McCune, you just mentioned that perhaps there were some new regulations, and you said standards have changed. Can I ask you to do a little of research and come back to us with some specifics on what changed to require that the clearing operation recently done was much more dramatic, let's say, than what had been done in the past? I'd like to get some specifics on those issues that you referred to. But beyond that, overall, I mean, I think it's very clear to me and many people that what you presented there is a very different scenario from what took place recently here in Falmouth. I think things really got out of hand. I think you probably know that. And I'm just wondering, and I'd like you to come back to tell us, maybe in your follow-up, what NSTAR is doing to make sure that doesn't happen again. In this case, I suspect maybe it was a subcontractor hired by NSTAR, kind of got carried away and things got out of hand, and unfortunately, nobody with a sufficient authority of NSTAR was there to stop it and nip it in the bud. So things really got carried away quite a bit. And I guess one of my questions is, will that subcontractor still be on your approved list? And I would hope not. But I'd like to know what other steps NSTAR might be taking to make sure that this awful mistake does not happen again, certainly here in Falmouth, or maybe anywhere else in the Commonwealth. Thank you. So please do get back to me on that. Thank you.
thank you, Mr. McEwen. We'll continue to work with you in the future. Okay, request to continue under determination of applicability, Heinz Penzance Point Nominee Trust, 160 Penzance Road, Woods Hole, for permission to relocate and replace 2 existing float pilings, replace 2 other existing float pilings, and modify the float to accept the new piling locations. Jen?
Yes, Madam Chairman, the applicant has requested a continuance until April 11th.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions on the board? Any questions from the audience? Okay, hearing and seeing none. Motion on the table is a continuance to April 11th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Robert Aspel, 5 Sycamore Street, East Falmouth, for permission to construct a 40-square-foot porch and 50-square-foot addition to remove the garage to the foundation and construct a 2-story garage, install an invert pipe at the garage foundation, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping.
Yes, Madam Chairman, the applicant has requested continuance until April 11th.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions on the board? Any questions from the audience? Okay, hearing none, motion on the table is a continuance till April 11th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Next is Rachel and Brian Switzer, 4 Quistit Avenue, Woods Hole, for permission to construct a 12-foot by 22-foot second-floor addition using the existing foundation with no footprint expansion.
Yes, Madam Chairman, the applicant has requested a continuance until April 25th.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions from the board? Any
April.
questions from the audience?
I have a question about the date. Did you say April
25th.
26th?
Fifth.
25th.
25th, okay.
25.
good. I want to make sure it's 14 days after the 11th. Thank you.
All in favor of the motion on the table, which is an extension to April 25th, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
All opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Black Beach Harbor Head Association, care of William Retznikoff, the entire length of the dirt roadways for Little Neck Bars Road, Black Beach Hills Road, and Drift Road, West Falmouth, for permission to rough grade the existing roadway, giving the road a 2% cross slope going away from the wetlands where possible, adding less than 1 inch of native dense fill, fine grade, and then compact the roadway after wetting.
Yes, Madam Chairman, the applicant has requested continuance until April 18th.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Any questions from the audience? Okay, all in favor of the motion on the table, which is continuance to April 18th, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Request to continue under a notice of intent. Peter and Mary Beth Walsh, 115 T-Ticket Path, East Falmouth, for permission to construct and maintain additions and decks to remove existing retaining walls, patio, entries, and steps, and to install new and modified of the same landscape features, gutters with dry wells, native mitigation plantings, and associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping.
Yes, Madam Chairman, the applicant has requested a continuance until April 18th.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Any questions from the audience? Okay, hearing none. Motion on the table is a continuance to April 18th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Request for determination of applicability. Brian Fitzsimmons, 381 Shorewood Drive, East Falmouth, for permission to replace the existing deck in the same footprint and to install sonotubes.
Yes, Madam Chairman, the staff has reviewed the project. We're recommending a -2 under the statement bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions from the board? Any questions from the audience? Okay, hearing none. Motion on the table is to accept staff's recommendation of a negative determination, which means that people can go ahead with what they've discussed with staff. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Regina Pacheco, 226 Sycamore Street, East Falmouth, for permission to pump 2 cesspools, fill and abandon one, and remove the other, and to install a new Title V sewage disposal system.
Yes, Madam Chairman, staff has reviewed the project, and we are recommending a -2 under the statement of bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Any questions from the audience? Okay, all in favor of the motion on the table, which is to accept staff's recommendation for a negative determination, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Heinz Penzance Point Nominee Trust, 160 Penzance Road, Woods Hole, for permission to relocate and replace 2 existing float pilings, replace 2 other existing float pilings, and modify the float to accept new piling locations.
April 11th.
That was continued.
Oh, sorry. And the next one's continued.
Correct.
Thank you.
And the next 2 more after that are continued.
And the first hearing.
And the next 2 are continued. And request for a hearing under a notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. The first request is Peter and Mary Beth Walsh, 115 T-Ticket Path, which is continued to April 18th. Okay. Sebastiano and Susan Santostefano. Nice alliteration in that name. 3 Black Beach Hills Road, West Falmouth, for permission to construct a 432 square foot deck, remove an existing oil tank, install an underground propane tank, resurface the driveway, vista prune, remove vines and invasive plant species, install native tree and shrub vegetation, and associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. that's going to be on the quorum. Ask her.
One moment, please.
We might table you, but we might not.
We're running into a little bit of a scheduling issue. If you could bear with us just for a moment, please.
Sure can.
Thank you.
No? Come on, some more. All right.
Was this one open last week?
Yes.
Do you think, do we have to hit it one more time?
What?
It's still,
Power off.
might have to hit okay one more time.
I did, okay.
I don't know. Jen knows. Just, it's still up there.
Jen?
There. Perfect.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to table the Black Beach Hills Road project for,
Okay. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
We're tabling.
I tabled the project that was just presented. We have a conflict in schedule that we're trying to remedy right now. I made it.
Thank you.
Michelle seconded. Correct.
Okay, the next request for a hearing under a notice of intent is Janice Smythe. This is a continued request. It's been continued for several months, and although we have 2, 4, 6 people here, unfortunately, we did not have the same quorum that we had the last time. And so Jen, do you want to give what the options are?
Yes, Madam Chairman. The current quorum is Michelle, Tom, and yourself for the project. There are 2 options the board has. The board could, the applicant is willing to continue the project again, so that the next time we have a full quorum where Commissioner Harlow House and Commissioner Byrd, who just left in a tremendous amount of pain, be able to attend. Or what you could do in this case is reset your quorum. Resetting the quorum would open the hearing over again. It would be a clean slate, and we would need to go over all of the information and everything that was presented in the first hearing so that all of the commissioners are comfortable with the project. I know that a number of you have not been to the site and have not been able to read the amount of the project description in the notice of intent and the variance request. It is a fairly lengthy project, so it really depends how comfortable the board feels going forward at this point.
Michelle?
I just want to mention, as part of the quorum, if we were not to reset, I am out of the country April 18th and April 25th. So if that affects the situation. Just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Madam Chair, may I say a few words before you decide to put this to a vote? Or-
Okay.
Or, I'm sorry, is the chairman Tom? Betsy?
No, I'm the chairman.
I saw Tom before. For the record, my name is Brian Wall. I'm an attorney from Sandwich, and I represent Janice Smythe, who's here tonight. And we also have our full team. We have Mike Berselli, Leslie Fields from Woods Hole Group, and Teresa Sprague. And before the board makes its decision, I wanted to say that my client flew up from Florida to be here for this hearing. And I know it's no one's fault. Jen called me this morning, and she was already on the plane, but she's here for this hearing. We have our whole team, and this has had a lengthy continuance to begin with, so we were prepared to go over the whole project and intended to do that in any event. And so our request to you is to consider reconstituting the quorum and letting us proceed tonight. And if you did that, we would step back and allow everyone to go in the right order, of course, and then come back at our turn.
Okay, the only comment that I'm gonna make from that, because I did hear the other, and all of us who did hear it had gone out to the site. I don't believe any of the people have gone to the site, which in this particular case, I think they probably should go to the site before they hear the testimony. That's my concern. But it's I mean, the three of us obviously were heard it and we could hear it, so it's up to the three of you as to how comfortable you are.
Madam Chair?
Yeah, Ed?
Yeah, I can only speak for myself, but I'm very uncomfortable. I only learned about this possible quorum issue sometime around 3 or 4 this afternoon. I got the email announcing that there were some issues, but I have never been to this site, and, well, let me first off say, I have no problem with the issue of resetting quorums, and I have, in fact, advocated for it and then recommended and made motions for it in the past. But I've only done so in situations where they were uncomplicated projects, didn't seem to be a lot of issues, not a lot of disagreement, and on both sides there was 100% willingness and agreement to reset the quorum, so there were really no issues. In this particular case, I myself have a real serious issue because I think it's probably a complicated project. I haven't counted this year, not familiar with it. What, 1, 2, 3, there's 5 or 6 variances required here. That's sort of a trigger that says to me, this is a project where you have to go out, you have to look at the site, you have to read all the documentation, and in fact, the reading to be done on this thing to prepare for hearing is this much material. Yeah, that's 2 hours just to go through it real quick and make a site visit. I mean, I'm just not prepared to sit here and listen with no preparation whatsoever. That's not the way I do my job of this commission, and I really cannot. If the decision is made to go ahead, I'm going to have to recuse myself because I'm simply not prepared at this point in time to discuss this project.
Okay, does anybody else have any comments? And then what we'll do is we'll put a motion on the table, and then the board as a whole can vote.
Maybe to complicate the issue, I went to the site this afternoon.
Okay, well, then we'll put it, we'll put a motion on the table, and then if we decide to go ahead and reset the quorum, then you can either, those of you who weren't on the initial quorum can choose to recuse yourselves or not. Yes.
If I may, Michelle, if we hear this tonight, and regardless of everything, if we hear this tonight and we close it tonight, we have 21 days to vote.
14 days.
Okay,
We're
14
voting
days.
14.
Michelle would be a non-factor in that because she will be out of the country.
No, she's out on the 18th. She'll be here on the 11th.
Okay.
Well,
I
and
stand
if we
corrected.
reset the quorum, I don't matter then,
Okay.
because there's enough other people.
You always matter.
Wow, that's
All right,
sweet.
I guess my roundabout way is if we do reset, even though you may not have a comfort level on it, there's extenuating circumstances with this, that we close the hearing, you still have the ability to go to the site, even though you would have questions, you'd be able to bring that up in deliberation with your fellow commissioners and not necessarily the applicant. That is the only thing that you wouldn't be able to directly discharge any questions to them and get an answer. I have no life, so therefore I'm on this quorum. You know, I winter in Quissit. You know, it's just something that I'm fortunate enough to be here.
You winter in Quissit.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, I winter in Quissit.
Well, you don't have to make a decision. We'll put
Well,
it
no,
on,
but
and if
I'm
you don't-
trying to get a balance here that, as, you know, this is extenuating. There are, you know, it was a continued for the reasons that us on the original knew about. They are prepared to make a full presentation if that's acceptable and that the rotation goes back to the other applicants. I think that's a palatable way to address this. However, again, that's up to my fellow commissioners on their comfort level.
Ms. Gladfelder, if I may, I'm very sensitive to Mr. Schmidt's concerns, and would it help you, Mr. Schmidt, if we represented to you before we got going that we would not ask that the hearing be closed, and that we would ask for a second hearing so that the board could go to the site and then ask questions at another hearing?
Well, I don't think that's necessarily going to solve anything.
I'm not sure that
I think we could've-
accomplishes anything.
You know, there are ways that the hearing could have been closed the last time.
Mm.
We didn't need any more information. You were the side who wanted to keep the hearing open.
Right, for very legitimate reasons, but that's correct.
So I'm not sure that that's going to solve anything. What I would like at this point is for someone to put a motion on the table to reset the hearing. We'll take the vote, and then we'll see what the vote says.
Make a
and then we'll
motion
move
to
on.
reset the hearing.
Second, I have a question, point of order.
Yeah.
The original member, are we voting on this?
All
Isn't it-
6 people can vote
Okay.
on this. And if you vote to reset the hearing, then we'll hear the hearing tonight. You'll be next, and then you'll be next. If we vote not to, then we have to discuss when we're going to hear it again.
Yeah, Can
Okay.
I just recuse myself then, or abstain or something or other?
On this vote?
Yeah.
This is the vote to reset the hearing. You can vote yes to reset the hearing, and you can vote no. If there are an equal number of yeses and nos, then it's no. If there are 4 yeses, then it's yes, we will hear it. All right, does everybody understand? Okay, the vote is everybody ready to vote? Okay, the vote is, we will reset the hearing tonight. Everyone in favor say aye.
Aye.
Everybody opposed say nay.
Nay.
Then it's up to me. Maybe we should call Courtney and see if he'll come in again. I'll vote aye, we will reset the quorum. We will reset the quorum. Ed, you're still on the quorum. If you choose to
Madam
recuse
Chair.
yourself later on, you can.
If Mr. Schmidt is going to recuse himself, then we would like to have a continuance. So,
Okay?
and since Mr. Schmidt has announced his intentions, I don't think he's changed them.
I need to do my homework, that's all.
And that's why I'm asking for the continuance, because what we want is a full, fair hearing. And I think that we would prefer to have a full quorum of voting members on there. So can we have until after May 5th because of Ms. Smythe's travel plans?
Yeah, I'm also away for some of those, which would be 2 more people.
Right.
I'll be in Quissit.
Can we-
The board does not meet May 2nd, so I'm looking at the next available hearing as being May 9th.
But
Well,
don't
we'll-
push it on too much past there, because then I'll be gone again.
Are you here for the 9th?
I'm here for the 9th, I'm here for the 16th.
So
I
we're-
am also here for the 9th.
We're all good for the 9th?
I'm not.
Okay.
Okay, so then, Madam Chairman, you're gone.
Could you
on-
turn that light back on, please? Yes. Thank you.
I'm not available the 9th, but the 16th or the 23rd or the 30th would be fine.
That's correct.
I'm away the 23rd and probably the 30th.
Is the
Guess it's the
16th.
16th.
But then I need you to vote.
Well, then we might have to have a vote. If we close it that night, we might have to have a vote. Actually, I'm leaving the 18th.
Do it the 17th.
You can schedule a vote, and then if we haven't closed it, then we won't have the vote.
It's fine.
All right?
Make a motion for the applicant on May 16th.
To continue to May 16th.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you. I'm sorry that this happened. I mean,
It is what it is.
you know,
and
we
thank-
usually have 6 or 7 people here. It just happens to be a different combination tonight.
Right, there was a series of events.
Unfortunate events.
Yeah. Thank you for taking us out of order, we appreciate that.
Thank you. Well, thank
Thank you
him.
for your-
He was the most patient one.
Make
We
a
had to
motion.
be- We had to be here anyway.
Make a motion on table the,
3 Black Beach Hills Road.
correct.
Second, please.
Second.
Do you get that? Motion and a second to on-table 3 Black Beach Hills Road. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Welcome, and I'm going to turn to Jen and see if she has any questions, and then we'll turn back to you. Jen? Do you have any questions? 3 Black Beach Hills Road.
I do not have any questions at this time. I'm going to wait until after the applicant's presentation.
Okay, thank you. You're back again. You must have liked us the first time.
I did. Thank you for having me again. For the record, my name is Zach Basinski. I'm a professional civil engineer with Blackton Engineering. As mentioned, I'm here on behalf of the applicants, Sebastiano and Susan Santos Stefano. Alliteration there.
It is.
Yeah. As mentioned, we're here this evening to request the approval of a notice of intent to do some renovations on the property out there. Our project site, as mentioned, is 3 Black Beach Hills Road. This is located in West Falmouth. It sits in the Black Beach Hills and Sippawisset Marsh DCPC. The site also sits inside a A12 flood zone, elevation 13. Some other resource areas on the site are a bordering vegetated wetland to the north, another bordering vegetated wetland to the west of the site. 2 coastal banks are along the north and the west as well, associated with the flood zone. The coastal banks are the banks that are the controlling resource areas on this property, since they're the most landward resource area. They have a 50-foot Zone A and a 50-foot Zone B. The site is a pre-developed existing single-family lot. The house on the site was constructed in 1912, and the lot in its current configuration was created in 1985. This give you a little brief history on the site. It has been in front of the commission a few times. Initially, it was back in 1991. The applicant was in front of the commission to get approval for this existing pier outside in Harbor Head. They were granted their order of conditions at that time to construct the pier. When we were doing our initial research on the project, it was discovered that that order of conditions was never closed out. So since then, we've gone ahead and as-built the pier, reviewed the old files, and have submitted a request to close out that order of conditions to have a certificate of compliance issued. Secondly, and more recently, the project was reviewed at an administrative level for the replacement of an existing failed cesspool last fall, and that was approved administratively by the staff. All the work associated with that septic system was outside of the 100-foot buffer, which is shown over here. The plans at the time were reviewed and approved by the Board of Health. One of the conditions that did come out of that approval was some mitigation plantings that needed to happen. In order to install the septic system, we need to remove about 330 square feet of rhododendron, which the staff at that time requested that we replant with mitigation planting on that site. So that mitigation planting we are proposing as part of this application. As for our proposed project, what the applicant is looking to do now, along the front of the house, they're looking to construct a 432 square foot deck that will be located outside of the 100-foot buffer. They're also looking to install an underground propane tank outside of the 100-foot buffer and remove an existing above-ground oil tank, which sits on the south side of the house. They're also looking to construct some paved patios and reconstruct the existing driveway with a new surface, stone surface. They're looking for devining and removing of invasive species on the property in some various areas. Along the front of the driveway, there's some honeysuckle that they'd like to have removed and replace that with some mitigation plantings as well. And then replant some vegetation that was removed in order for the trucks to get in when they were doing the work for the septic system. As for work inside the Zone A and Zone Bs on the project, we are increasing the impervious surface only inside the Zone B by approximately 53 square feet. So we are required to mitigate at a 2-to-1 ratio for that. So we are mitigating at 100 square feet for that. Some other required mitigations, in reviewing the Concom staff's files for all this, it was discovered that there's an existing vegetable garden on the site inside the 100-foot buffer that was previously not permitted. So we've spoken with the applicant, and they're willing to relocate that outside of the 100-foot buffer and replant that with mitigation plantings. So there's another 400 square feet for that. And then lastly, for mitigation planting, since we do sit inside the DCPC, there is in the Falmouth wetland regs, there's a requirement that any previously approved disturbance on the site that's in excess of the 6,000 square feet that's allowed. In order to go forward with any new projects, you need to mitigate 10% of that excess disturbed area. So on this project, our lot is about 33,000 square feet, of which 20,000 of it is existing previously disturbed area. We have researched the GIS aerials on file with the GIS department, and this project site, as I mentioned, has been around since 1912, and based on those areas from 1975 and on, the site has been pretty much in the same state. And so with that excess mitigation, there's another 1,400 square feet of mitigation that we are required to plant. So in total, the mitigation that's required is 2,300 square feet, and we're proposing 2,367 square feet. All that planting has been sited with a majority of it inside the Zone A and the remainder inside the Zone B. Plantings on the north side of the site have also been correlated with a requested vista pruning. The applicants are looking to do some vista pruning to some existing vegetation to maintain that at a maximum height, or minimum height, sorry, of 5 feet, so that they can still have views out towards Harbor Head and have their access out there as well. So, and then lastly, what we'd like to discuss with the commission tonight, disturbed areas that were disturbed as part of installing the septic system, we're proposing to remitigate those lawn areas initially with seed and loam in accordance with the Falmouth-friendly lawn requirements. In doing some research and in speaking with the landscaper, we'd like to request in using sod on the project as opposed to seed. It's been discovered based on our research that in accordance to the Falmouth-friendly lawns, you like to have a high fescue sod or high fescue lawn out in these areas. What we've discovered in discussing with the landscaper and his provider is we're able to get a higher blend of fescue with a sod, and they've told us that they can get 100% fescue with this breakdown of seed. If we go with this initial seeding or hydroseeding that was in the initial application, what they've been telling us is we can only get 75% of that to be fescue material. They need to plant some kind of rye seed or use some kind of rye seed in that. The reason for the rye seed is just because it grows quicker germination and it helps protect. Other reasons we thought that sod would be good on this project is given the sensitivity of the area, using the sod would help stabilize it and give better erosion control quicker. It's almost immediate protection once you put it down. The using the hydro seed takes 2 to 3 weeks for the seed to germinate, and then there's a potential for that to wash off in heavy rain events, and birds and everything else eating the seed. It's easier, we thought, best to use the sod. And lastly, the sod also provides a more uniform coverage of the fescue material on the site. So with that, I'd like to turn it back over to the commission.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Jen?
Yes, Madam Chairman. A couple of issues. Zach, I did not receive the DEP number.
I reached out to Southeast Department, she did not get back to me.
I was on my computer until about 6:45. It didn't come
Yep.
in. So we are lacking a DEP number. So like every other tonight, this one's gonna have to be continued. Other than that, that gives you the opportunity to provide the BBW data sheets that I
Yep.
spoken to you earlier about. I know the applicant's representative has been in, working with Mark, trying to get the calculations correct, as his first shot of doing work in the DCPC, which is a bit difficult. So, I don't
I
have
was
any-
impressed,
I-
actually.
Thank you.
I kept wondering every time I'd open my office door if he was gonna be out there again. Other than that, I don't really have any concerns with the project. Zach did ask me about the seed sod mix. I wasn't sure how the board was gonna feel, so I did tell him to provide a spec on that material for you to review. So they have done that. Other than that, I think the calculations are correct, and have no concerns with the proposed project.
Okay, thank you. Who has this one? No one's jumping forth, so we'll start with Ted.
I believe it was Courtney's actual.
It was Courtney.
It was Courtney's, yeah.
Yeah. Ted, you want to start us
Yeah,
off?
I didn't see the specific, is it in the,
It came in the other day, Ted,
Oh,
there's
so I
a
just
copy
picked it
of
up?
it there was only one copy, it should be
so there's a
filed
specified
right-
sod of those percentages.
What was that?
It is a specified named
Mike,
sod.
it should be in the.
Should be in here, Mike.
I think it was an email provided by the applicant's landscape person.
In the original.
Okay, wait a minute, there is a name for this, it's called sod blend 100% fine fescue, or is it?
This was,
Is the
ju-
name of the sod, and we have, and this is where.
this
it's
is
located?
the breakdown that they gave me. They didn't give me the actual species name, they just gave me the breakdowns right here.
If you could get the actual name of the sod mix for the next hearing, Zach, that would be helpful for the board.
Yeah, it's not here, actually. There's nothing in the file on the sod mix.
Yes, I really can't comment on that, but other than that, it seems as, the mitigation planting seemed fine and in replacement for the new additions, and I don't really have many issues with it. Just more concerned about, it's not, it really isn't that,
Sloping, big slope.
huh?
It isn't a big slope.
Yeah, but the difference between the sod and the hydro seed is, the hydro seed will come in very quickly, especially this time of the year. You don't have slopes, you don't have erosion issues, it's a very flat site. So I don't see the reason for the sod other than just the instant effect. And, but if it does have, it is 100% fescue, and we have that specification, and we have that, the name and the name of the purveyor, fine. I don't have an issue either way with that, but I don't buy the fact that it's gonna help that much.
You'll
That's
need
it.
to get the name of the purveyor, too.
Yep. Mike?
Your proposed underground propane tank is nestled in between two boulders. Are you prepared to, manage that excavation?
We'll have to manage it.
Appropriately?
If we hit it, we'll move it accordingly, and coordinate that with staff if it's an issue.
It's just,
That should be a condition, Jen.
the proposed underground tank, is nestled between two boulders. And the excavation should be managed, appropriately, just to be sure that the soil is kept in place.
These boulders are like icebergs. Sometimes it's just a little bit sticking up on top, and it's a great big mass down below.
It's not a very big tank, though.
No, I suspect it's,
If it has to be moved, it would have to be,
Yeah.
if the location of the tank had to be adjusted, it would have to be reflected on the
Oh,
plan.
yeah, we'd reflect it on a plan and give an updated
Right.
plan to staff for that.
Right. Is that it, Mike?
that's it.
Very comprehensive. Thank you for letting us adjust you in the course of the hearing this evening. That is appreciated. Nice presentation. I have no questions.
Michelle?
You may have already touched on this, but it looks like some of the work is being proposed outside of the property boundary.
Yeah, the previous, the homeowners had extended their lawn area past, so we are giving that lawn area back and providing mitigation for that. That mitigation is in excess of the required mitigation on the site.
But does that affect?
Black Beaches is a private road, so technically they'll own to the center line.
Okay, so then that won't matter. All right. And then my only other question was, I think the trees, the mitigation trees, are being proposed outside of our jurisdiction, or at least some of them. I was just wondering if there was a reason.
Oh, the whole site's in your jurisdiction because it's in a flood zone.
Right, but not in the A, sorry, you're right, but not in zone A or zone B. And I think typically that's where we would place them. I wasn't sure about the placement, why place there and not in the mitigation area.
They had some arborvitae that they wanted to take out, so they liked it back there. And then they had some existing cedars on this property, and they wanted to enhance those.
Okay.
So that's why they
Yeah, I don't know
placed
if
them.
that's mitigation. Sometimes, I think it's just, they're planting those. They're
Okay.
saying that they're gonna plant them. And they had to remove some vegetation back here for the septic work.
Okay, so that makes sense to put it
Yeah.
back in. All right, that's all.
Ed?
Yeah, I guess I have two questions. First is on the proposed mitigation area along Black Beach Hills Road next to the driveway.
Yep.
There appears to be a good amount of vegetation there currently.
All the vegetation is staying there. There's a juniper tree that's going to be removed, but everything else is all.
All right, but you're taking credit for, you're trying to mitigate. You can't mitigate by vegetating an area that's already vegetated.
And I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you're talking about the areas on the plan that just have the hash marks in them, not the check marks. The ones along Black Beach Hill Road, those are.
Well, the check marks, there's vegetation. Yeah. In here.
Oh, and that.
So,
Yeah,
Maybe we need to
there
have
are some
that.
there are some big bushes there. So
Yes.
if you could go back and measure what those
We can
are,
put that on
and
the
then,
plan for the next time and review
Yeah.
that.
and then give us that much more, give us another line.
okay, and secondly, when I visited the site, I just had the plan that says disturbed lawn area will be, by the way, why is that whole, what's it, southern corner, had all been dug up and there's raw dirt there? What happened there?
That was a septic system that
The
they put
septic
in.
system was replaced.
Okay, that whole area was,
Yeah, it was a 5-bedroom system, it was pretty large.
right. But on the plan, it says you're going to replant there, but it says bringing in 8 to 10 inches of loam. And I kind of have a problem with bringing in the loam, and I was looking closely at the soil that's currently there, and it looks to be pretty good, and similar to the soils on the rest of the lot, which have decent grass cover. So I don't think the loam is necessary in the least, and particularly with your sod on top. Now, normally you might want to bring in loam and put sod on top of it, and I'm just saying that we should have I would suggest a condition that, in this case, you not do so. So if you're gonna use the sod, it can go on top of the existing material,
I thought we always asked for 8 inches.
which has already been dug up and loosened anyway. so.
Yeah, that's what we
We've
normally
always asked
ask.
for 8 inches as a standard
Huh?
for when you're putting in the drought
We
tolerant
normally put it
seed.
in so that they can get a good root growth.
That's
to
part of the
start with.
standard
It's a standard.
detail for the
It's a standard
for the
detail.
drought
Yeah,
tolerant
but,
seed.
you know, we're talking about DCPC here. And what I'm saying again is that that whole area has already been dug up, so the soil is already loosened.
Well, it's not, it wasn't loosened today, it was hard pan today.
Are you worried about fill, or what are you worried
I'm just
about?
worried about bringing in fill into a DCPC.
I'd be willing to bet that the amount of soil is taken out of there to put in all these leach fields and everything. I bet you're lower now than you were, I mean, if you want to go back and look at existing plant, you may want to do that for his sake, but I don't think it's going to be a lot of fill. I mean, they've taken out a lot. That entire corner is the system. You see it on the
And
plan?
it sinks when you try to put it back in.
Yeah, it's going to have, there's going to be
It will
fluff and
sink.
it's going to go down.
It's gonna settle. I had a good experience, or not so good experience, in my own house with that.
I don't see your grades from before and after spot grade, I mean, unless they are,
Well, we didn't retopo the site after. This was a topo that was done prior to the system
Yeah.
being put in. So we'd have to go back out, retopo everything to do that calculation, which is,
but we do, that is our standard detail for drought tolerant grass. It's 8-inch loam. I'm just letting, yeah, that's why he's put it in there.
Well, that's just my concern, so I have nothing else to say.
Okay, well, we have another chance to discuss it before we even close it, because we need to continue it. So how about if you and Jen decide on the date?
Okay, just wanted to go over, we need to provide the sod spec and the manufacturing information for that. We look at that propane location for it, and we look at the area of the proposed mitigation that has a total of 1131 along Black Beach Hills Road, and look at existing vegetation there and adjust that area accordingly. Okay.
What was the second one you said?
Look at the propane location, propane application. Could you get that information to me by next Wednesday?
I sure can. So we'll plan for next week.
Yep, so you would be on for
April 11th.
April 11th, would that work?
That works for me.
On
Okay.
behalf of the applicant, I make a motion to continue this till April 11th.
Second.
Not yet. Wait till we take the vote. Motion and the second on the table to continue to April 11th. Final comments from people? Okay, no final comments. All in favor of the motion on the table to continue this hearing till April 11th, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Get Christine to get you that number.
I will.
Angela and Dennis Martinez, 140 Saconaset Road, Falmouth, for permission to raise the RAZE, the existing dwelling, and construct a new single-family 5-bedroom house with attached garage deck with stairs, porches, walkways, install a new Title V sewage disposal system, patio, retaining wall, spa, dry wells, utilities, AC units to remove trees and install native trees and shrubs, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping.
Guess what?
Pardon?
The applicant has requested a continuance. They did provide all of the information that was necessary for tonight. Natural Heritage has not responded to the application and technically has till Friday to do so.
Oh,
They
well.
thought it best to just continue it to April 11th. You will hear it. They have submitted everything they need. They are missing Natural Heritage.
Make a motion to continue this on behalf of the applicant till April 11th.
Any comments on that? No comments. All in favor of a continuation till April 11th, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Okay, now, Request to amend the existing order of conditions. Atlantic Oyster LLC and Denise Kelly, 158 Sea Pit Road, Wacoit. Request to amend the existing order of conditions, DEP number 253743, to install 2 additional 8-foot by 20-foot upwellers to service the existing aquaculture operation. Jen?
Yes, Madam Chairman, it's a very simple amendment to the original order of conditions which you issued for the purposes of conducting a large-scale aquaculture grant in this area. You originally allowed for 3 upwellers, and the applicant is proposing to install 2 more. The water depths, which were a concern with the original location of the upwellers, and they were since moved to their current location. The water depth for the 2 new ones just progressively gets deeper, so staff has no concern with their location. I've been to the site and discussed the operations with them.
Good evening, Mike.
Madam Chairman, good evening. My name is Michael Borselli from Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant, Atlantic Oyster. And with me tonight is Todd Stressinger, the operator of the aquaculture grant. And we're here asking for that specific activity to allow for 2 additional upwells as shown on the plan. Mr. Stressinger tells me that the productivity is beyond what he could have ever expected. And for technical reasons that he's going to explain, we need 2 more upwells.
Okay, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Todd Stressinger, managing member of Atlantic Oysters LLC. The request for the additional upwellers, which are really floating nurseries, is that, as Mike said, the growth that we experienced with the 1 millimeter baby oysters that we put in last spring was explosive. And they grew so quickly that...
I'm not sure that's good news for us, but means it's nice, rich water.
Right. They grew so quickly that the density of the oysters sitting in the silos got quite thick, and there's a risk that any of the oysters in the middle will suffocate. And they really starve since they're filter feeders. So we are requesting to have the ability to build these if necessary so that we can keep the babies alive. And it's really that simple.
Okay.
Thanks.
Any comments?
No.
Questions? Questions, comments?
There are 2 piles between the existing 2 that are not shown. Are the plan, everything, the rest of ours proposed, okay? There are 2 piles between the 2 uplands.
No, we don't need more piles. We just want to, the upwellers would be just attached to the other ones.
Okay, and we can secure them in a manner that they're not going to break free and all those good things?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Yes?
Boy, am I excited to hear that this is a success. Go and have fun with it. You'll be very successful.
You like oysters, don't you?
I just like seeing good projects to
Move forward.
fruition. Yeah.
Michelle?
No questions.
Ed?
I'm just eager to see Washburn oysters on the menus.
Okay, let's put a motion on the table then.
Motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Second.
Okay, any questions, further questions from the board? Any questions from the audience? Okay, hearing none, this was short and sweet. Motion on the table is to close this hearing and take it under advisement. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Close one tonight.
Closed.
It's a word I didn't think I was writing this evening.
Okay, next item is enforcement order. Town of Falmouth, off Wood Neck Road, map 3605-015-000, and map 3605-006-001D. Salt Pond area bird sanctuaries off Drift Road, map 2506-010-000, and map 2506-009-000. Salt Pond area bird sanctuaries off Wigwam Road, map 2507-010-000. Edward and Susan Hughes off Tupelo Road, map 2507-003-000. And Sylvestra Calabrese, 8 Wigwam Road, map 3601-007-000A, West Falmouth, for digging, excavating, altering wetland resource areas as defined in FWR 10.00 and 310 CMR 10.00. Jen.
Madam Chairman, this is an official enforcement order for the project that the board has been grappling with since December, and that would be the alterations to salt marsh within Little and Great Illicit Marsh as the result of a research project that was being conducted. After we go back a step, staff did get a call from DEP that had gotten a call from one of the property owners involved, which are listed here. We're covering these 4 property owners because we either know that it's on that property or very close to, so we wanted just to encompass everybody. I had a conversation with DEP regarding the position the board was taking with this in asking the researchers to sign an enforcement agreement, and DEP responded with guidance that they would prefer to see an enforcement order, and if this board wasn't going to issue one, they would be issuing one themselves. So after consulting with yourselves again and our town council has spoken to DEP's council, and everyone's in agreement that this did need to be advertised to comply with the regulations within your bylaw. And so that is why you're here. You're here to vote an official enforcement order to get the restoration and, more importantly, the monitoring of these areas completed. That said, the language is drafted here. I would draw your attention to page 3, which gives your decision. I have spoken with 2 of the property owners, and I know how the board feels about an independent third party developing the plan. But after speaking with 2 of the property owners listed, their main concern is getting the areas stabilized and would have a comfort level with allowing the Coastal Systems Group to do the work. Now, I understand how this board feels, so if you want that language modified, I will do so. But at this point, it is written that UMass Dartmouth would, basically is written that the conservation hereby orders UMass Dartmouth shall immediately desist from further activity affecting and altering the wetland portions of these properties. That the wetland alterations from said activity should be corrected and all sites returned to their original condition. That within 14 days of the receipt of this enforcement order, University of Massachusetts shall develop and submit a restoration and monitoring plan to be implemented immediately after approval of the Conservation Commission. The submitted restoration plan shall be reviewed and approved by, and this is, I put this in to cover the board's concerns, an independent qualified professional not associated with the university, and that prior to restoration efforts, all property owners must be notified in writing, and property owners must be notified of the date and time of restoration and monitoring efforts are to take place, and must grant written permission for such work. And that was, that condition went in after speaking with the various property owners, and this is what they would like to see as far as notification. And that obviously all correspondence be copied to us. The rest is just the findings, and it goes through the list of reports that you've already received regarding this, and the different hearings the board held. So I think the one thing the board needs to decide is whether or not a review of a plan submitted by an independent third party would satisfy the board's concerns, or if you want that plan developed and submitted by an independent third party.
Okay. I'll wait for comments for the board, and then I see we have representatives from UMass Dartmouth here,
Salt Pond Area Bird Sanctuaries.
and Salt Pond Area Bird Sanctuaries.
I'd like to try to channel Arthur right now, who's not here.
Channel anybody you would like.
Unfortunately, he was probably the most committed to this enforcement issue from the get-go. Begrudgingly, I followed suit, and then other activities and other information given to us by fellow board members was so compelling that the enforcement is totally necessary. The independent, if we were to address this as any other enforcement issue, I think that would be one of the sticking points, is to have an independent. I don't know how to go about that. I don't know if this is adequate enough, that there's been some unfortunate miscommunication back and forth. It's very bitter in your mouth when you're trying to swallow it. We have landowners that are involved in this and have put forth their input. It would have been nice if other information was returned. You know, I know we worked really hard, and I'm sure the university did as well, but there was always a sticking point of no open door response type of thing. And a lot of this technical is over my head. If you put it simply, you got a hole, you fill it. We are at a point where things are somewhat stable. They do need to be monitored. We all agree on that. The university and ourselves all admit that there's a monitoring program necessary, that restoration is necessary. Nobody is disputing that. The only sticking point is who's going to be the guy at the top of the pyramid. And I'm going to rely on others for some input on that, because my own thought is, no matter who's at the top of the pyramid, in order to get a compliance, it still has to meet our standard. Before this is put to rest, no matter who's at the top, they still have to come in front of us. So if it's a slightly independent but underneath the umbrella of a very large thing, and I tried thinking about this, and the company that I work for, if you came to my site and told me about activities on another site, I wouldn't know. But so it's a big umbrella that covers the university. I think there are people who could be impartial. I don't know if that would satisfy other board members' concerns, but I think the ultimate end-all is us. This is going to have the restoration. The plan, again, I rely on the expertise of other board members. I don't know, I've said enough right now, I guess.
there any other comments?
Other comments?
Yes, would you like to be next, Ed?
Yeah, okay, yeah, well, I'm wrestling with this, section on the decision here, the whole issue of an objective, independent third party, and I'm still there. I think that's, I really think that's the best way to
Here,
do this.
I
I
can-
realize coastal systems has certain expertise, but I'm not sure they're actually have been they're not really in the business of actually performing the work in the field. They don't have the boots on the ground, so to speak. They're more of an advisory group, and I have that
That's not
concern.
entirely true. I'll tell you, let me give you what my concerns are
Okay.
with this. I think the University of Massachusetts, Dartmouth, Coastal Studies, they've done restoration work, they're capable of doing this. But my concern and the concern of people on the board is that the initial work that was done without authorization, without consideration of the resources of the town of Falmouth, without getting the permission of the landowners, without getting the permission of the Conservation Commission. So that was sort of one concern. The second concern was we asked for stabilization, which in fact, there was some stabilization done, but as we all saw, and especially those of us in the field, and Arthur saw with the pictures, there was a lot of trampling of ground, and there was some concern on
It was
some
unsatisfactory.
angst among our board members that it wasn't done with the care that we think was warranted, given what was done. And so I'm confident that UMass Dartmouth can develop a plan, but I would like a third party hired by UMass Dartmouth but approved by us, so an independent party, to take the plan to go on a field trip with people from UMass Dartmouth and somebody from Conservation, either the department and/or some of us who have been out there to, like you say, the boots on the ground to actually see what do you intend to do on each of these sites. And then there'll be certain periods where there's going to be certain monitoring done. And that third party would look at those monitoring plans.
Okay.
And if that person or those people had questions, then they might have a further field trip. That's how I think it should be
So
done.
you're saying an ongoing role in the process as opposed to just reviewing a document and putting a stamp on it?
And then
You'll have a continuing
that
development.
person would have to review the monitoring results as well. That's what I think would be a reasonable way to move forward.
So maybe we could add, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, maybe we could add the word observer, more than just reviewed and approved, but like ongoing observation
Yeah,
type
well,
thing.
Yeah,
I'm modifying that.
And that's on B, right? Section
Yeah,
B.
That would be
Section B.
Would be.
That would satisfy, I think, quite a bit of the concerns of all.
I was trying to, I understand the concerns of the board, I really do.
Mhm.
I understand the expertise that Coastal Systems Group has, and I was trying to get two parties to be able to meet in
move
the middle
forward.
and-
Absolutely.
and move forward.
Absolutely. Big steps on this. I think it's an enforcement order, and I'd be comfortable making a motion to approve this enforcement order with the submission of the additional language
Yep.
on
On the observer.
the
Yep.
observer ongoing
Mhm.
part of the program.
And the fact that that third party needs to be approved by
Yes,
this commission, or by
Yeah,
staff?
absolutely, that's already in.
My only concern would be timing. Would this process, this kind of back and forth process, actually take longer than if a third party did it all?
No, I think in the next 2 weeks, UMass Dartmouth can develop a plan and can give us the names of three independent people, and we'll choose one of those people.
Only because we've had timing
Issues before.
issues
Right, but
before.
I think Jen can put that
We
into the
will
enforcement
add
order.
in the submittal of 3 independent entities for your approval.
And if we don't get them in 14 days, what's the,
And then I will just turn this over to your council.
I think that the university is compelled to satisfy a lot of things right now.
Do we have any other questions on the board? What? You have a question?
No.
I'd like to make a couple of remarks about this research.
Yep.
Um, I live on Little Silver.
Could you tell us who you are?
Oh, yes. I am a scientist, first of all. Don't boo. Antoinette Steinecker. I know what it's like to run a research lab, to get grants, which you have to sweat and sweat to pay for the people in your lab, often to pay your own salary. So if something that should be done isn't done because somebody thinks this person's doing it and the other person thinks this person is doing it, that's, it happens. But this project, I think, is fantastic for that marsh, number one. That marsh is dying. We're all concerned about that. But first of all, I walked down there one morning and I saw Mr. Camille out there standing in the parking lot with a little computer held in his hand. And there has 3 little devices that are mounted on a stick that measure the exact tide at 3 different points to measure, and he can read this. It's reading 24 hours a day. He can read this standing in the parking lot. That's an ingenious thing. That's a favor to us. That's something we didn't have to pay for. They had to sweat for.
It is a favor to us, but they're supposed to ask permission of the town.
Yes,
the people whose land it is.
Yes.
And of the Conservation Commission.
Yes. As I said, if you have I don't know how big.
I'm a scientist also. I'm a field scientist.
Okay. But the point is, I don't know how big Dr. Howe's lab is. It's very hard to get things coordinated between a number of people. Number 2, that Spartina is much hardier than anyone seems to think here. I look, from my 3rd floor deck, I can look at the whole strip of houses down from Courtney Bird's house all the way down. And I was amazed that they took this sort of caterpillar thing out there 2 years ago, and they cut a strip about 500 feet long and about 10 feet wide to cut down the Spartina. Then they went in and they actually didn't paint it into each individual.
They cut Phragmites, not
Yes.
Spartina.
No, I know. But the point is that they had to go across the Spartina to get to the Phragmites. And after they cut that down, that Spartina is growing up. It's like this high in what was just muck. So any remediation of any harm that was done to that Spartina is not going to be a unnatural process, because Spartina does, given the lack of beachgoers and tourists running across it. And in fact, since that whole section of Spartina, of Phragmites was cut down, there seemed to be 30 kids running out to the marsh through the Spartina. And the Spartina has actually developed a whole lot of pathways, because kids didn't want to go through the Phragmites. They want to go out. Now the whole marsh is filling with sand. The town paid $30,000 a few years ago for Lawrence Lynch to dump sand supposedly on the beach. I was there in the parking lot when they came in. They dumped the sand, not all over the beach. They just dumped it inside the beach. The last 3 huge trucks of sand were dumped over right. Here's the beach, here's the marsh, here's the parking lot. It was dumped right at the entrance to the marsh, where the water has carried most of it in. After the first big storm we have a huge, an area as big as this room, sand that deep that you have to walk through just to get onto the beach or to get to the trash can. I never heard anything from the Conservation Commission about that. It was evidently approved, it wasn't followed up on. So I think, and in that case, it was a question of profit for a company. Dr. House is in his laboratory, is doing this not to enlarge his own home, not to have a better view of the water. He's doing this to help do something with the problem we have with the dying of our marshes. And if anyone wants to see, I used to have when I had a dinner that was important with a scientist who might be sitting on my funding board at NIH or something. If I had that dinner, I used to have it at high tide, because at low tide there was enough muck, which is a healthy marsh. There was enough muck out there that it smelled bad at low tide. And now the whole area is filling with sand. I think the Spartina is not as much a threat as this problem of the sand in general. And for the town to dump this enormous amount of sand right there to go into the marsh. That's my one point. The other point is that I think that the whole town should do everything that they can do to help someone who's trying to do something not for himself, but to make the world a better place. He's not asking for territory to put a big house up. He's not asking anything that will glorify his life. He's asking to do research. And I admit, not getting the permits was a big mistake, but I think it should be taken into consideration in dealing with him, dealing with the project, that this is really of a benefit to the town, and we shouldn't discourage somebody else or even his laboratory again to come back to Falmouth.
Thank you. Mike.
My name's Michael McGrath. I think you know me. I'm a registered engineer and registered professional land surveyor. I'm a member of Salt Pond Area Bird Sanctuaries, and the reason I'm here is that I've been disappointed that we haven't, that as of last week, the 3 of these owners haven't received written requests for permission to do the work. And that troubles me a lot. It would seem to me in the 3 months somebody should have contacted the owners direct and asked for permission. I've advised them all to do it, to grant permission. And as far as I'm concerned, I watched our salt marsh restoration, and I would think that the work could be done by the scientist. And I think that as long as you accept the work, I'm not so sure that you need to put a lot of onus on it. I'm more interested in getting the work done. And also, I want to make sure that permission's granted by the landowners. They stand ready to grant it if someone would ask. And the final thing I would say is that normally enforcement actions get recorded at the registry, and I know I've spoken several times. I would hope that this does not get recorded at the registry. There's no reason for it to be recorded. 3 of these owners did not know the research was ongoing. But let's get it fixed. That's the most important thing.
Okay, thanks, Mike. No. Brian?
Yeah, Mike, thank you. The reason the request went out is that I've been trying to get this into sort of a dialogue, but at this point, until we have the hearing and it's in legal and all this stuff, I'm out of that loop. We did get notification from 2 of the landowners, and They just said, you know, we want you to fix this, and they didn't require anything, but we'll be notifying. Or I won't be notifying, somebody will be notifying. So this is the problem, is that once we start getting into this, then my zone of action is reduced. I should indicate, just for those of you that might need, or might want a refresher, we came before the board, when this first came up, we immediately stopped work. We were asked to prepare a stabilization plan. We came before the board, did not present because the board didn't want to hear it. They voted not to hear it. We then created a stabilization plan. We had it reviewed by a person acceptable to the board at the time. They reviewed it. The board then said, get it done. Get it done. It was like 10 or 14 days to get it done. We got it done. Everything was done, and we're happy about that. We wanted to do it. We did it. Then the request was for a restoration plan to be developed. We developed that, and it was at this point that we had an outside reviewer do it. The problem is that I tend to operate in a world of science where you go after the best people. If they're really good, I probably know them. If they're marginally good and really good, I probably have worked with them. It's very difficult to go and get people that you don't know after 40 years in the field. Okay, that's a problem for me. The critical thing, though, is you do not take people with international reputations and think that over 0.004 of an acre that they're going to throw their 40, 50 years of reputation down the drain. They wouldn't do it. I don't even think anybody I know would do that for me. Okay. So I think that you need to be a little bit understanding of the process of what is an expert and what is an unimpeachable expert, and that's what will get you. As for the work, I would say that we do boots on the ground. We do field work. We're probably one of the few very intensive field programs that exists around now. We don't do CRT science. We don't do science by staring at a computer monitor. We're out getting muddy, dirty, wet 365 days a year. And everything that goes along with that. People get seasick, frostbite, everything else. We've stood in marshes in the winter, in the summer, in the spring, and everybody always comes out and sees you in the summer and says, oh, this must be a great job. And you're going, yeah, you weren't here in February. That's why we had absolutely no problem getting things done before Christmas. We had 9 days, 8 days, we got it done. Going forward, my zone of operation is not in any of these other things, because once the process went in one direction, then I was removed from certain activities. My process is, though, the restoration, and that is really where I have my biggest comfort zone. I'm happiest to be able to assure you that the stabilization plan that already went into effect, at the time it went into effect in December, and it was fully implemented before the 1st of January, that at the time that went into effect, it's not the growing season. The plants are down. The marsh the vegetation that's there is dead and wet and decaying. And so what we're waiting for, really, and from what all of the people that we have talked to that are experts in this field say, as well as our own experience, say, yep, you know, it's going to look really, really good by June, maybe even late April, early May. By July, you're going to be 90% done. You continue to monitor, and we would expect that by the following summer, you will reach 100% done. These are plants. Spartina, you know, the history of it is it was named after Sparta. It's a really tough plant. It grows in one of the nastiest, most rigorous environments on the planet. High salt, plants that can't take that osmotic stress. High temperatures, low water potential, very stressful environment. And yet it grows like crazy. You go out in Sipwasset Marsh and you say, oh, look at these beautiful creeks. Those aren't creeks, those are mosquito ditches. Those were dug by people to control mosquitoes. Maybe always rightfully so in the old days, but these are artificial systems. The system was hayed. People would go, and still can, collect salt marsh hay in systems in the right areas for farming. And it is still done someplace. Spartina patens is highly valued. When I first came to Falmouth, there was still haying going on in Sandwich and on the vineyard.
Could we just
Yeah.
focus on?
Yeah, but you said I did my 3rd trip here, and I never get to speak, so.
Well, this is an enforcement order issue
I
right
know,
now,
but
and
the
I
issue is-
appreciate your comments.
We still have another page worth of
And
meeting.
Yes.
if I hear one more person proclaiming about the hardships of what their activities were in that marsh,
Oh, I had no hardship on that marsh. I didn't mean that. I meant the plants have a hardship.
Out in the cold and all that
No, no, I
type of
have
thing, your job and all that, please understand that this volunteer that has been putting time in on this,
I understand.
my patience is razor thin at this moment. I'm gonna call for a vote.
Okay.
I don't need a dissertation on the plants. I don't need additional education about the activities. What I really want to know, and what my hair is getting up on, is a communication link between the university and this board to satisfy the private owners that had land that was violated.
So-
That's what I
Right.
really,
So I
really
need to
want.
know, I need to carry it back with me. I was just trying to get to the point that the thing will restore itself.
And we all agree that we need the restoration, and that's where we're going.
I would like to assure the landowners that restoration is already underway and will continue. What I'd like to carry away is what mechanism do we have for this link? I mean, I can get people to directly contact the landowners. Do you want us to go through the board? I need some guidance here. That's what I'm
I
asking.
think it specifically says, if you're gonna do
We will get
do
permission.
a plan, it says, prior to restoration efforts, all property owners must be notified in writing. Property owners must be notified of the date and time restoration and monitoring efforts are to take place, and must grant written permission.
Yeah, we're good.
If you're gonna do
I'm
the
good with
efforts,
that.
I think it's pretty specific that you're responsible to do that.
Is it, okay, so I will go back and I will ask whether the university asks, whether I ask, who asks, because I'm not a lawyer, and that's what's happened, all right? See, I mean, that's my
But
problem.
in your restoration
Mhm.
plan that you have to us in 2 weeks, along with a list of 3 other people not associated with UMass Dartmouth, there are a number of people in Massachusetts, I know you're aware of, who work on marsh restoration projects. If you give us a restoration plan, that list of 3 people, and you have, when you develop the plan, you'll know the dates that you plan to go out there, and you can write to the owners.
Can I get a point of clarification? The plan that we submitted was independently reviewed as accepted by the process that you guys designated. What do I do with that? Can I
Well, we didn't-
resubmit that, or? It was sent to the-
I suggest you look through it again.
Okay, but I mean, okay, no problem. Just was wondering if that was deemed to be insufficient or something. I could facilitate the, expedite.
Yeah, it may
the
be
process.
fine. I can't tell you, it was a long time ago that I read it.
Okay,
I can tell you that my one concern, I hope for everybody's sake here, that restores 100% in a year's time.
no, I print two.
However, I would suggest, I have done restoration work in seagrass beds and in coral reefs, and since there's damage outside the plots, I suggest you do some transects across to get what that area was like compared to, how it's changed.
Okay, that's good. And just, I didn't mean to upset you, whatever. I'm just trying to figure out the process since it's something new to me and I'm not totally in control on the university side at all. But I will make sure, I will carry back and get it done.
Okay, if you have any further questions, feel free to call Jen. And
I always do.
I know, and if she needs information or any kind of guidance from any of us, she'll call us.
That's terrific.
I do appreciate you being here tonight.
Yeah, well, I thought that, the university really wants things to proceed and really wants restoration to occur, and that's why I came.
While you're up there though, I'd like to bring up one other issue, and that is about the equipment that's in the lab, that's in the marsh still, that Mr. David is apparently continuing to take data from, which I'm not, personally, I'm not uncomfortable with those, but I think that project should be written up and it should be given to
Sure,
Jen.
we just
And
stopped.
permission should be asked.
You know what I mean? We just stopped. And so yeah, we can pull those out, if that's okay. It's just a stake.
Well,
There's a
yeah,
couple
there's
stakes,
There's a
but I mean,
series of stakes.
Yeah, but we can remove those, but we
Yeah,
weren't.
well, I mean, that's the kind of thing, that's the kind of project which is minimal disturbance and, can get a lot of valuable information that has to be cleared. We have a process by which you can clear it through Jen. If it's a project that causes a lot of disturbance, then it would have to come here for approval.
We just stopped doing things, and since that was not part of our stabilization plan, we're just waiting to figure out what to do with those, because it's just 3 stakes, but we'll pull them out.
Well, there's one in Great Savoy too.
And
Did we
there's
see
4
one?
stakes, we'll pull them out.
Yeah.
Okay? And, unless it's one of the ones that we did get permission for.
You got permission for an anemometer.
Yeah.
Yeah, but stakes I'm talking about are within marsh, 4 of them within the marsh that we saw when we were
There's
out.
other debris, it wasn't clear whether it's from this project or others, but there's other debris put up on upland parts.
Yeah. You can check. Yes, no, you didn't. You were about to. You were going to make a motion.
I shall make the motion for the enforcement order with the language as described on B.
Second.
Any other questions on the board? Any other questions from the audience? Okay, call for the vote. All in favor of the enforcement order as read and discussed, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Are there any questions with it? Please get to Jen so you have.
Is that okay?
Yep, so that we can have something in the next 2
I'll
weeks.
just take, what I will do is I have to take it, and or you can send it directly to the University Council's contacted the Associate Town Council, Pat Harris. You can send it directly to that council if you want. You can send it to me. I'll forward it to council. Whatever's your pleasure, I'll get it done.
Thank you, Brian. I'll finalize the language tomorrow, send it out certified now tomorrow to all the property owners, and I'll scan it, and you'll obviously get a certified copy as will. Is it Mr. Nicholson?
Yeah, I mean, it's in these types of things, you see, part of the whole dialogue breakdown is that
And
I
I
can't
will,
sign for the university.
I will just absolutely send this out to everybody. Great.
Okay, good evening.
Thank you, Brian.
All right.
Okay, next is vote orders of conditions.
Madam Chairman, can we take these out of order so Michelle doesn't have them?
Oh, yes.
Sure.
Does
Actually,
Michelle have any of
I
them?
want to do one other business before we start the vote orders.
I don't think I'm on any of them.
Let
Just
me
didn't-
actually
So it doesn't
double check
matter.
that.
You want to get out of here?
I was gonna just sit here.
I don't blame you.
I'm fine
No,
just sitting.
actually, I don't think you are on any of them. One quick question before we, actually, we'll wait.
Ted.
So-
I'm not going anywhere, don't worry.
Can you do your work again?
Ted, can you-
Quiet it down the hall.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Did you tell us your other business yet?
Okay.
Other business, I sent you all requests from Scotland Dell down at NBL regarding an aquaculture project that he wants to, or a research project that he wants to undertake at Atlantic Oysters. I sent that off to you last week. I'm getting blank stares.
I didn't
I
get
sent
anything.
it to Betsy.
I thought you sent it to everyone.
That's what I thought I did.
It's not ringing a bell.
It would be an eelgrass project, a seagrass project. Okay, I'm gonna resend it to you. I apologize, I thought I had sent, the request to all of you. Check your email tomorrow, okay?
Mm-hmm.
A seagrass project?
Eelgrass. You said, I mean, I didn't see
It's
it.
a seaweed project.
It's
Yes,
seaweed, it's not,
yes,
it's
seaweed
not
project, sorry.
seagrass,
Yeah.
it's to grow seaweed
Yeah,
and
I'll send the project.
oysters in.
Just throw Spartina
I
in there, it'll be
apologize to
fine.
the board, I
It's
could
the strongest
sworn
stuff
I
out there.
sent that off.
No, but
Grows
they're gonna,
everywhere. Grows
they're,
on
Let me know
walls.
I think it's gracilaria they're growing.
Yeah,
let me know if you have any concerns. It's, basically putting lines in the water with anchors down at various steps, so let me know if you have any concerns. I don't really have concerns with there's no really alteration to a wetland resource area, but let me know.
Yeah, it's, the project is in the area where we just heard about the oysters.
Yeah.
And that oysters are growing so fast. Well, another way to sort of mitigate excess nitrogen in the water is, in a way that's used in Japan, is growing seaweed. And so this is gonna, he has some experiments with growing seaweed, and you can just tie the little pieces of seaweed on string, and then it grows. And so we heard about the oysters. I think the seaweed's gonna grow very well
Yeah.
there.
But that does raise a question, are we discussing it? What kind of seaweed, are they bringing in any
No, it's a native.
alien species of seaweed here?
No, and I'll
It's a
send
native
it to you
species.
tomorrow. In fact, if you want to take.
Yeah,
a
no,
copy of
that's a
it
very
tonight,
good
I'll
question.
give you it.
We have enough problems with invasives.
Here you go. I'll send it to you by email, but that's the proposal, okay?
Bless you.
Bless you. Madam Chairman, can we start with Sea Scouts, go down and back up, please?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sea Scouts Partners, LLC, 350 Quaker Road, North Falmouth.
Yes, Madam Chairman, the applicant proposes to remove the existing putting green patio and bench and install a new patio and walkway. The project has a net reduction of 182 square feet of impervious surface within the buffer zone. The applicant proposes to install native shrub irrigation and trees, which will result in a 1,865 square foot reduction in the lawn area of that. You remember this, it's more improvements over at the Seacrest. And your resource areas are coastal banks, salt marsh land subject to coastal storm flowage and land members. Estuary, actually. The only special conditions I have for the project, other than your standard ones, that you have to keep your site clean, don't have debris flying around, was that, Tom, you wanted them to go down the bank and clean the debris from in there?
Yep.
And also install a limit of work along the proposed landscaping along the top of the bank to,
I think Ed had
yeah,
asked.
and
Yeah.
for about erosion. when
Right.
they start
To
to-
keep an eye on
A
it.
sill fence, actually,
Yep,
because the hay bales would not fit.
no, I don't.
Or a sock.
Out there. No, so.
Okay.
That's expensive.
So it's pretty straightforward, more improvements over at the Seacrest.
So it's everybody but Michelle.
Yes.
So could we have a,
Move to accept as discussed.
may I have a second?
Second?
Mike? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Peterson nominee, are we going down or up?
Yep.
Peterson,
Down,
up.
back up.
Okay.
Back up?
No, down.
Down.
and then-
Peterson nominee trust, care of Sally Peterson, 93 BB Acres Road.
Yes, Madam Chairman, this is the findings of the proposed case. The applicant proposes to construct a single-family home with attached garage. The proposed house falls within the outer buffer, the 100 to 200 to the riverfront area, and a small portion of the proposed lawn is within the buffer B, the 50 to 100 foot from the bordering vegetated wetland. The applicant proposes to disturb 5,700 square feet within the outer riverfront area, and that's that 100 to 200 foot range. And CMR 10.58, I'll get the exact citation, allows for up to 5,000 square feet or 10% of the lot, whichever is greater. The lot measures 27,400 square feet, 10% of which is 2,704. And the applicant proposes to alter 700 square feet or 14% more than what's allowed in the CMR. It's 14% more of that 5,000 square feet. Those are the facts in the case. The resource areas are riverfront, land under salt pond, bordering vegetated wetland, land subject to coastal storm flowage, and banks of ponds or rivers, banks of streams and rivers that lie within fish runs. So, because Fresh River is a herring run.
Okay, this is just to remind people, this is a state regulation, the Riverfront Act, which came in 2008, I believe.
Yeah.
No, the Riverfront Act was 1996.
Oh, 96?
Pretty sure.
Okay.
And Ed, Tom, Betsy, Mike, and Ted are the sitting forum on this one. Ed, Tom, Betsy, Mike, and Ted.
Okay. Is there any discussion?
I'm just trying to remember the comments made by Attorney Moynihan on behalf of the applicant, who did make some comments regarding the regulation and suggesting there was some flexibility there.
Okay, I can cite the regulations that she cited for you.
Yeah, could you do that?
Yeah, so what it is you go on to 1058, I think it's 4, yes, D. So, and this is what I cited as the actual regulation: no significant adverse impact. The work, including the proposed mitigation measures, must have no significant adverse impact on the riverfront area to protect the interests identified in Chapter 131, Section 40, which is the Wetlands Protection Act, which the Riverfront Act is incorporated into. Number 1, within the 200-foot riverfront area, the issuing authority may allow the alteration of up to 1,000 square feet or 10% of the riverfront area within the lot, whichever is greater.
5,000 square feet.
Oh, sorry, 5,000 square feet or 10% of the riverfront area within the lot, whichever is graded, on a lot recorded on or before October 6, 1997. And then it goes on to describe work on lots after 97. And then it says that at a minimum, a 100-foot wide area of undisturbed vegetation is provided, and they've done that, okay? What Laura cited you is 1058 4D3, which states, notwithstanding the provisions of 4D1, so notwithstanding what I just said, the issuing authority shall allow the construction of a single-family home, septic system if no sewer is available, and driveway on a lot recorded before August 7th, 1996, where the size and shape of the lot within the riverfront area prevents the construction from meeting the requirements, provided that the lot can be developed for such purpose as under applicable provisions of municipal and state law. The performance standards of 310, and this is what she said, the performance standards 310 CMR 4D are met to the maximum extent feasible, and in difficult siting situations, the maximum extent of yards around the houses should be limited to the area necessary for construction. And then it goes on for commercial lots. So.
This is a straightforward lot to me. They could build a house with 10 feet around it and have a driveway in, and not even to discuss, I agree with what you said, that there's a way to have a driveway in and have some buffer between the street and the house. So there's a way to have a footprint that's 5,000 square feet and have room to have a house. And I don't see why they need anything extra. And if we were to give them anything extra, then we're going to have a series of requests similar to this.
I would, I walked up and down my house all over the weekend. My house is bigger than this and has a foundation. This is slab. That's one of the citing things, is that you don't have the ability to go down with this to have a basement for certain things. Just bringing this out.
You can go up
Yes, you could.
2.5, 3 stories.
Yes, you
We
could.
have no idea. This is,
This
basically,
is
we're
just
giving them a footprint.
Yes, you are, and I'm just putting this out there, that even permitting this house, there is a substantial 100-foot buffer to Fresh River that would have to be adhered to. for any future activities. And that is roughly, at most, if you shrunk this down and reconfigured, I don't know, dealing with the devil I know, a two-car garage, you know, if anybody alters from this, they'd have to come in for an amendment. This is the devil that you know. This is what is,
No, they could, if it were denied, they would have to come in with a new plan.
well, then I'll put it out there. I'll make a motion to approve the project as presented.
We'll see if,
I'll second it.
do you don't have any more comments?
No.
Well, you can comment after. I just-
Yeah.
I'll have to comment after.
Well, we have a motion and a second on the table, so you can comment now. I mean, yeah, comment now, but you can't comment after you vote.
Move this along, people.
Yeah, it's you, you have the
Yeah,
floor.
okay. The mitigation here is that you can't walk the site. I mean, it is a mess of brambles and bush. In order to create anything, they pushed it as far away as they could. The area is where it is, and if you're going to have any home that lives there, you have to have enough space to do it, and I think that the house is about as modest as you can have where it is. You can't have storage down, and if there was that, I'm not sure what people were thinking when they gave us that flexibility, but it seems to me that if we have that flexibility and we're not, it's just physically trying to make it smaller than what they asked for, I think is difficult.
Madam Chairman, can I ask a question of the board? You keep saying slab, was that written?
We discussed that there,
Okay.
it was
High water level.
high water
Yeah,
level.
you wouldn't be able to.
This,
All
I
right,
just
that's
want to
what I
remind the
thought.
board that this is a state regulation. It's not, you know, it's.
But the
and-
question is, how much weight you put on the state seems to allow for some flexibility in certain situations that were described in the regulation.
Jennifer?
It was, that was.
So it's a judgment call on,
The state
It
states
says,
that,
in difficult siting situations, the maximum extent of yards around the houses should be limited to an area necessary for construction. The board should decide, is the deck, is the garage, is that necessary?
Remember, these houses can be 3 stories high. And I'm not
well, there's a
gonna say-
34 or
I'm not gonna
35
say
foot
how
height
much
limit in
space
town.
people need, because I've already gotten into trouble once for saying that. Somebody who needed 3,000 square feet. I'm not gonna say people don't need 3,000 square feet. The question is, on this lot, how much is permittable for the size of a house? And
They're
it's-
asking for 14%
and-
more
and
than
the
what's
state-
allowed under
the state has this
with-
because-
under your regulations.
because these are diatomous fish runs, and they're trying to afford them as much protection as possible, given that there's already been a lot of development along them. Okay.
I was just saying, the state regulations only was stating if there was a difficulty in citing it, but this is flat, it's open. The only difficulty here is the size of the lot, so you don't get the percentage of the size of the lot. And then you have the overlaying boilerplate size of 5,000 square feet. So if the lot's not big enough to supersede that, then you're stuck with 5,000 square feet. That's it. I mean, that's the regulation.
It's a bigger lot, you'd have,
Bigger lot,
you
yeah.
could
you'd
have
have
10% of it.
Yeah, if you had a acre and a half size lot, you'd be able to put a much bigger house.
yeah.
May I remind this board, and Betsy, you're probably, maybe Ted was here, and I know Ed was, and maybe Ted and Tom know, that this board made a house remove itself completely outside the riverfront area to comply with the regulations once.
I remember that.
Yeah, but there's no room to do that in this case.
No, but the regulation says 5,000 square feet, and the,
My point being that you required another resident in town to move their house outside the riverfront area because
Because they could.
be done.
We would
What
do that
I'm-
in this case, but it's not possible.
What I'm saying is, it could be done for them to meet the 5,000 square foot. That's all.
What was the intent of giving us flexibility? What was the people drafting that regulation?
If you had a difficult sighting?
It says notwithstanding the provisions of the restrictive thing, the issuing authority, meaning you, shall allow for the construction of a single-family house on a lot recorded before 1996 where the size and the shape of the lot within the riverfront area prevents construction from meeting the requirements of 10.481, provided that the lot can be developed under all other provisions of local and state law, and that the performance standards are met to the maximum extent feasible. And they go on to say, in difficult siting situations, the maximum extent of yards around the houses should be limited to the area necessary for construction. I don't think this is a difficult siting situation.
No, I don't think very much
And that is
imagination was put into this
provided
project.
Well, they seem to be having difficulty getting it through this board, where there's a lot of questions.
I don't think, because I think the board tends to be sympathetic to people needing garages. I bet there are a lot of people I know there are people, I'm looking at people who don't have garages, that need more space. And the fact is, I'm not saying that people don't need that. There might be a lot of people who need all that space, but there's certain places that they can't have a house with that much space. And that's, our responsibility is to protect resources for the present and future of people in Falmouth.
And I appreciate the chairman's information. And one of the other things that I kept, seriously, I walked up and down my hallway. Area of remaining natural vegetation, 79% of the lot. This lot's bigger than where I'm just letting you know, it's bigger than where I live, and I'm looking at how it's on a sewer line. I just, I don't know. I put that motion out there, and that's what I did.
Okay, there's a motion and a second on the table to approve this as read. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
That's 3-2?
Yep.
So the motion passes.
Yep.
Thank you.
This will be
Your
useful
motion to
words.
pass,
Okay.
what would you like me to put in the findings?
I would suggest in the findings that the 700, square foot difference here is considered de minimis. And that it
14%?
represents only 2.5% of the
No.
total lot.
I won't agree that can be in there. It's 14%. What the state says is you can have
2.5% of the total
You
lot.
can have
Doesn't matter
10%.
what the percent of the lot is, it doesn't matter what the,
The state
matters
says
to
you can
me.
have 10% or 500 square feet, or 5,000 square feet. 700 is not de minimis. It's 14% more than the state allows.
next.
Jen, the only finding that I would put in, because this is,
We've gotten in trouble for getting outside of regulations before.
I know. The
It's
only
just-
finding
it's just-
I would
I
put
don't
in,
think we're
Jen,
not-
You can
but-
handle them from.
But my judgment is we're within the regulations.
Jen,
Oh,
Jen,
okay.
the only finding I think you can put in that was discussed was that it has to be a slab
Yeah,
construction. John and Robin Hanlon, 125 Waterside Drive, North Falmouth.
applicant proposes to reconfigure the existing deck to install a new patio, add approximately 900 square feet, it's actually 901, but approximately 900 square feet of native plantings to comply with FWR 1018, somebody complies, and plant 420 square feet of native shrubs to address an old order of conditions, which is DEP 2520. The resource areas are coastal bank, land subject to coastal storm flowage, coastal beach, and land under ocean. You'll have your standard special conditions regarding planting prior to construction. I think if we're getting up onto the time of year where that can be done. Maintained in good health. I don't have any tremendous special conditions, I think are necessary for this particular project unless the board disagrees. There's the patio.
No, that was pretty straightforward.
It's straightforward.
Are you on this one, Ed?
I'm trying to figure out, I don't think so.
I don't,
Hang on, Ed, I'll
You might be.
1 second.
Oh.
No, actually, I don't know if Ed's on this one.
Or is this the one that I thought I wasn't, but you said it had not been open previously?
Oh, no, Ed, you are on this one.
Right.
yeah, that's
This
what
is
it
the one
was.
out on Waterside Drive, it's in North Falmouth in Seascape?
Right, and when I was gone, it was on the agenda, but never opened, I guess.
Correct.
And I told you that, yeah.
Okay,
Right,
we have
and
a
I do
motion?
remember looking at the patios there.
Ed, Tom, Betsy, Mike, and Ted.
Motion to accept the order as discussed.
Second?
Second?
Thank you. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. 20 Associates Road Realty Trust, care of David Balk, trustee, 20 Associates Road, West Falmouth. This was for an amendment.
Do I have to recuse myself?
Well-
Basically, it's,
There are just 4 of us on this one. The 4 of us are Ed, Betsy, Mike, Ted.
oh, yeah, okay.
He's not listening.
It's just an amendment, they're reconfiguring, the proposed house. They're adding mitigation plantings on one area, and they shifted that to allow for a path down to the water in the other area. It's very
Weren't they
straightforward.
they were adding pavers into the
They were
A-zone,
adding pavers and they added the ruck system.
into the A-zone.
Yes, but they
But they mitigated.
compensated
They
for that as well.
Yeah.
It's
May I have a motion?
pretty straightforward.
Someone other than Tom has to make it.
I move to accept
Thank
the
you.
order as drafted and
It's
proposed by the
discussed.
administrator.
As discussed.
As discussed. A second?
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Okay.
Steamship Authority, care of William Cloutier, 9 Skating Lane, Falmouth.
The only thing I have to ask the board, I want any, Mike, I know you had some concerns with the project, and wanted to see some additional calculations on, I'm gonna give this to you. I can start that discussion with the board. We do have a meeting with Bill Cloutier next week to discuss, Ted, putting additional trees along the bike path portion of that parking lot, outside of your purview.
Yeah, I looked into
Feel
this.
that.
Because they're a state agency, they're exempt from doing any of the Cape Cod Commission or our own local parking lot regulations, which are, one tree for every.
Steamship Authority is a state agency?
Yes, and for every one tree for every 20, there are regulations for parking lots. You would think the Cape Cod Commission would even be more, restrictive than Falmouth. Falmouth is one tree for every 20 spaces. They don't have to do anything.
Well, we're
And
gonna
I think it's
appeal-
very
we're
clear,
gonna appeal that.
looking at all the lots that they've done, there's really no effort on their part to even make anything look decent. There's a 1/4 mile that looks like a back lot in Reno, Nevada, in the middle of our town, right in the middle of the most beautiful bike path that a lot of people put a lot of money into,
We're going-
time and effort.
We're going to appeal to their.
I don't think
sense.
they're not gonna come up to what we'd want to see to help screen And, I mean, you know what it's like, the top half of that bike path is just as gorgeous as the bottom path. And yet, in the middle, there's a quarter mile of, I understand they try to keep out the papers and all that, but there's loose papers, there aren't any trees, there are weeds and dust. And that's what we're left
When we
with,
come along the backside, I know where you're.
in this supposed symbiotic relationship we have with this steamship authority, that's what we're left with, is a hole in the middle of our town.
I mean, well, you're right, we as
I-
a board can't enforce it, but he agreed,
Yeah,
and
but I
so
just
I'm
think
gonna
To pursue
start.
it, and it was,
He's gonna
but I'm just
agree, and
bringing
I'm
up-
gonna-
I just
I'm
want
gonna
everybody to
pursue it.
understand that the state is sidestepping what everybody wants them to do with the Cape Cod Commission or with their own local regs on parking. Everybody else has to, the Stop and Shop, the malls, everybody else has to put in one tree for every 20 spaces. The state doesn't have to do anything. And exercise
you're
their right to do
And you're
nothing.
surprised?
No, I just
You
think it's
know, I
pathetic.
just-
I think
it's-
it's pathetic,
Well, and,
with the amount of money they're making off the parking lot.
Let's stick with this project.
I think that-
Let's get this vote done.
okay, in the islands, at the end of the islands, Mr. Cloutier, his testimony was that they would augment the end of the islands and put greenery in there. They put trees in the ends.
You know how many trees can fit in there.
Well, I know, but it's better than pavement. It's, you know,
Okay.
it's a start, right? And to encourage him to talk with the state and develop a planting plan along the border, you know, we can.
We're working on it.
Yeah, we're working on it.
They're parking on the state easement of the railway right now, on the other side. Those rails are on, the easement's 80 feet.
Let's stick with the project.
Well, I'm just letting you know, this is what we're up against.
Yeah, and
I think one of the things the board needs to determine is whether or not, one, you classify it as land isolated subject to flooding.
Right.
Or if you classify it as BVW.
Right.
Start with that, and then look at the drainage design, look at the calculations for flood storage capacity. I mean, it's gonna be a parking lot, they're proposing a parking lot, it's either going to be a smaller parking lot or this size parking lot. We understand that some are going to perceive it as an absolute eyesore, but, you know, the steamship authority bought that lot for the purposes of putting parking in that. So I think we should start the discussions on that, and then we'll go back with the tree part. Does that give you guys any guidance to start with?
what would defining the drainage swale that the state has as an ISLF or whatever, which way is it, what are the parameters of that, what's the differences that would make?
An outlet.
Difference.
Isolated land
Matters how much
subject
they
to
can
image.
come
And
closer.
there are some, you need to take into account that the pipe that you saw, or Mike, you saw, right?
We saw.
Yeah. Into that. You had a project before where it was bordering vegetated wetlands flagged by Jack Vaccaro. H&W has a different opinion on what this basin is. Yes, it was created for drainage, we all know that. We agreed with Jack when he flagged it the first time, that it was bordering vegetated wetlands. Engineering did look at it, they have some comments regarding drainage calcs, and, you know, have proposed that the board request additional drainage calcs to take into account some of the area.
And that'll be, well, that could be a condition.
That could be a condition.
I don't have a problem saying it's isolated.
Okay.
What's it called?
It's
I never,
ILS.
ILS, isolated land subject to flooding. I mean, it was created as a swale. It has wetland vegetation because there's permanent water in it now. Probably permanent water, Mike pointed out, probably permanent water because there's been so much sediment there that it's just it's a clay that won't drain.
I mean, could be groundwater, I mean, that's pretty low.
He thinks it's not groundwater. He thinks it's just,
I think just right across the road is Long Pond and its elevation.
it's further down, Long Pond's further down the hill.
It's right across the street. I mean, it's up the
Yeah,
road, I mean,
up
it's
the
right
road.
there, I mean, it's not that far away,
Yeah.
it's,
I mean, if the board is concerned, you could require additional calculations on 100-year storm event. My only concern would be that the stormwater detention, the management system is capable of handling all the water off that parking lot so that AMVEX is not impacted.
Yeah, I think you should require additional calculations
Additional, okay.
that are reviewed by our engineering department,
Okay.
because that was a major concern.
Of AMVEX. And then,
And the other butters as well, because all the collective activities there truly undermine this corner, the easterly corner where all these lots
Where this
meet.
house is,
Yeah, where the
that
ambets
building
is, and then the bulkhead and all that. We're gonna lose trees down there. That's eroded beyond belief.
well, and another thing is see, there was a lot of outstanding information that I feel this board should have left that hearing open.
the battered wall issue.
The wall issue and whether or not, where they have the wall, they can actually plant the trees that they're proposing to plant. Do you think it can be done? I had asked for additional information on that, and the board just closed the hearing. So, I think unfortunately, there was a little bit more information that this board could have used to help you make a better decision. We're not there now, so you can write into the order some of the concerns that you still have.
Yeah, if those trees have to make it one way or the other. If they have to put, what do you call it, a well?
Well, well's only gonna work for so long, but you can plant the pit so that, you can plant a pit on the side of a hill.
Yeah.
They're gonna make a shelf for that wall. And there's gonna be room there to plant the trees beyond, but what we're
But you
saying
wanna
is,
stabilize
where they're
those
showing the
trees.
wall, and if you look at the detail of the wall, it's battered, meaning
Right, it
it's
goes
coming
further
out.
out,
It's
right.
gonna come out a couple more feet, and that for, the shelf's gonna be further towards the isolated land subject to flooding or bordering vegetated wetland, which already is.
Yeah, but there still has to be a row of trees, and they have to be
Yeah.
protected until they're
Oh, they're protected, they got a giant wall.
Their roots are, no,
Yeah, but it'll
they
be on,
get
it won't be a
stabilized, they're
steep, it
stabilized.
won't be so steep, it'll be a shelf.
Yep.
That's gonna be a big, you'll see a big impact there when it goes in, that's gonna be a big clearing.
Okay, so you want additional calculations regarding the,
Okay. Your concerns were covered with,
Pretty
okay.
The, I think my concerns are addressed if you get back with storage going back to the property.
yep,
I think if we get that addressed, I think we're, from my perspective, okay. The AMVET property.
His concerns were covered with what we've already said. Make sure you have in, speaking of trees, that the trees that were agreed to in the parking lot are put in the parking lot.
The 3 or 4.
okay.
Well, 2 areas there, and there was an area here. There's
Here,
a, there was a,
there's this strip
I thought there was a triangle
right here.
here. Oh, there it is, yeah.
Okay. I mean, my major concern is that the calculations are done to account for all of the drainage, because that's a lot of pavement.
Yeah.
That's a lot of pavement. And I need this board to feel comfortable.
It is a lot of pavement, but it's not more impervious surface than was already there.
Actually, it is.
I'd like to remind people that the roof area of the development that is there now is almost identical. They're
That's
great
what I'm
that there is.
saying. I'm
there is-
making the same
yeah.
point. I'm making the same point.
Actually, Madam Chairman, I'm going to just correct you a little bit. This area,
You mean the part that sticks out,
this area right there.
that sticks towards the isolated lands?
That's what the,
The L, the part
Along
that's
Skating
here,
Lane.
right
Yes.
there, that is new.
correct.
Portion of that is new, so it's not the identical area.
No, but.
I think
there's a-
any drainage in that area is gonna be an improvement, absolutely is gonna be an improvement.
Unbelievably so,
But
because
let's
of.
make sure that there's enough,
That's the only thing, and that's
Yes.
what I felt this board was grappling with the other night on some of the, on whether or not the stormwater is done, if it's enough to handle it. That's all. I think just a few more calculations provided to the board would give you a comfort level. I have some concerns with the trees on the slope, but that can be dealt with. Do I have concerns of going into isolated land subject to flooding a little bit? Not really. That drainage basin it was created for the road runoff.
it is what it is.
It is what it is. It's not functioning as anything right now except for stormwater.
The drainage area is slightly larger than shown on the plans. It shows missing that. If you went by today, there's runoff coming down Minot Street and Davis Road. That's
Drain.
draining into that drainage basin, that's not set. When you take in consideration what the AMVETS tells us, it wasn't a 100-year storm that caused their problems, it was something considerably less. It was just 100 years, they would have been here once, they were repeatedly having problems. So
Yeah.
there's, the calculations as presented, I think, underestimate the problem. We went to the town and they'll come back and I think we'll be okay.
I think we will be okay, and part of when Seafood Sam's paved their parking lot and their runoff was additionally
It's
added
amazing
to.
when you're there.
Added to the AMVETS as well. You know, the development of that whole area, little pieces of it, and then just the unfortunate neglect of some of the back of the building and some of the bad habits that were created, kinda,
This all goes to making more and more paved parking lots.
I wish we had the
well, then the non-maintenance of the
Okay.
swale
so
itself.
you could see the other elevations, the ponds around.
We have a motion?
Make a motion to
So you want additional drain, yeah, I got it.
to accept the order as discussed.
Need a second? I know the four of us are on it. Ed, are you on this one?
No.
Oh, you're not?
No.
You're not
Can't
on?
even utter a second.
We
No,
only-
no,
Cannot even utter a second on that.
I was here the last hearing, but not the
Disgusting
15th.
parking lot.
It was the only
When you
hearing-
asked all those questions, I was,
That was the only hearing we were here.
That's the only time
That
we
was
do
the only time we
Yeah,
opened
one
it.
hearing
It was
on
open and closed one time. So you are on it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any
Yeah,
abstention?
I'm abstaining.
opposed.
I'm abstaining.
I'm opposing, Ted.
Okay,
He's
3-4.
abstaining.
Wait a
Tom,
minute.
Tom, Betsy, Mike. Aye. Ted,
Nay.
nay.
I'm
Ed,
abstaining.
abstain. Any other business?
Yes, we have to go back up, right?
No, we're done.
That was up.
Oh, that was up.
That
Okay.
was up.
Sorry.
Yes, one bit of other business. Madam Chairman, when are you, I'll just adjourn and I'll ask you.
When am I not gonna be here? I don't know yet.
And Michelle, you are,
I have some other
I'm not gonna
business
be the
though.
11th either. That's what I added to, so it's
Okay.
11th through the 25th, I want.
Are you, 11th?
Michelle, you're
Are you over here on
April-
the 11th either?
No, I have a training I'm doing in Rhode Island, and
Oh,
it
'cause you
ends at
didn't
5
mention
PM.
that.
Okay.
And I know, I went over and told her
No, that's
after.
fine. That's
I won't
fine.
be able to make it back.
April, if, can you send me that in an email, Michelle?
Yes.
That would be great.
Okay.
Because in the next hearing, you guys need to go through your summer schedule as well. This is the time of year where you already have the 1st of May off. You usually take 2 weeks in May, 2 weeks in June, 2 weeks in July, and 2 weeks in
Yep.
August.
Well,
So I
we'll-
need to work.
Usually.
We'll talk about
You
that.
Last year maybe, but never before.
Actually, yeah, for the 2 years prior to that.
we'll talk about that, but what two things. You'll miss Neil's presentation on the 25th.
I
So
know.
we have a special guest who I'm going to say has to limit himself to 20 minutes on 5-year water quality study, USGS and MDL in West Falmouth Harbor. It's just informational meeting. And some, on April 9th, which is a Monday, the Conservation Commission will give a presentation to the Board of Selectmen, our annual report, but it'll be a two-year report this year.
Is this Neil guy, is he the one they got all the information from for these lots going up there?
For which lot? Oh, I
They said
don't
they
know.
based a lot of this idea about going north where the discharge area is due to some guy from USGS.
I don't know, we'll find out. We'll ask them. I don't know him.
Motion to adjourn.
Michelle knows him.
That doesn't mean I know the answer to the question.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying, but I haven't met him yet.
You have once.
I have met him. I've met him, but if I saw him on the street, I wouldn't recognize him.
Who is this, the person that's giving the presentation?
Neil,
We have a motion to adjourn. I'll entertain a second.
Second. I can second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, unanimous, so moved.